We're sitting now with past presidents, and actually in this case, a current president of the club. When you celebrate an anniversary, it's really that time to look back and to see all the things that have changed and what you're celebrating. In this particular instance, we're not going to look back so far because Dr. Dick Wunderlich is our current president of the club. So Dick, as the current president, instead of looking back 40 years, look ahead a few years and tell me what you think, where the club has come from and where it's going to go.
Well, I'm not saying that the club was this, but the day of the Judge Smales type golf courses are over with, okay? It's a time for family, it's time for being more inclusive, less selective in terms of it can only be you, it can only be you, that sort of thing. So I think we see the club moving in the direction of a couple things. One is trying to get the family more involved. It used to be a situation where dad had a membership, mom might accompany him on social events or bring the kids to the pool, and now I think the goal is to get the family involved. Make this the place you want to come. This is the place to swim, to play tennis, to play golf, to goof off, to get away from everything that's got you tied down, to stop being tied to the tee-ball and all that sort of thing. Just come here and relax.
And that is a extremely important aspect, I think, at least my opinion of the golf course. What in your mind do we have to change to enhance that particular field?
Well, I think you have to change your physical plant a little bit. I mean, we have a wonderful pool. Everything we have is wonderful. We have things that many clubs throughout the country do not have. We have tennis, indoor, outdoor pools. We have all those things. But I think we have to do things that make it even more family friendly. There may need to be play areas. There may need to be more places that they can eat, more functions for kids, for moms, maybe a place for moms to bring their small children while they do yoga or whatever it is. So there's a lot of things. The committees are looking at many things. They have tremendous ideas. It's a matter of trying to distill through all those and find the best way to get from where we are to that point. It'll take some time.
With that being said then, what do you think right now is the best aspect of Travis Pointe?
Golf course, without question. I mean, all the wonderful things, the golf course far and above everything else. If you think about it, you've probably done this in your life. I've played a lot of really nice courses, things that are on the top 100, top 10 list. And a few of them you'd say you go back, but most of them you say, been there, done that. I've played here thousands of times, literally thousands of rounds, and I still look forward to coming back here the next day, the next weekend. And I think if you went back through the records, you'd never find a person who ever resigned their membership, transferred their membership, or anything that did it because they didn't like the course.
Well, like you, I've been a member here for 34 years. That's one thing I've always said is I've never gotten tired of playing this golf course.
Yep.
Okay, so the golf course is the best aspect. Outside of the golf course, from a family perspective, from a social perspective, what's the best part of the club?
You know, I'm going to say I think that we've become very inclusive. And I don't mean, that's different than diverse. Diverse means you just have lots of different people that fit different check boxes and that sort of thing. And we have all of that. But I think what we do have is an inclusivity that you come in here and it's a little bit like Cheers Bar. You come in, we've got CEOs, we've got professors, we've got doctors, we've got dentists, we've got blue collar people. We have our norms. And everybody, you walk in, the staff, it's like they know your name. And I've said it before. In fact, I wrote it for the Pointe Press that may be out about the time these interviews come out. I think if you didn't smile today, you haven't been to Travis Pointe today.
Very well said. Very well said. Anything you want to add?
No, I would add one thing, and hopefully it'll come up someplace along, but if it isn't, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't remind everybody that this is the vision of the Simmons family 40 years ago, actually more than 40 years ago. And I asked somebody today, I actually played golf this morning, and I said, what do you think would have happened to you had the Simmons not had their vision to build this place? If David hadn't then carried through and done all those things, where would you be today? And it was like, whoa, I don't know where I'd be. And so I think we have to thank them because they took a leap of faith to build something like this back in the 70s, that someone would come and actually join it, enjoy it. And I've known David for a lot of years. I think he still gives to this club even 40 years later. And we have to thank the Simmons. If we don't, none of us are sitting here now having this interview or having dinner or whatever it is.
I have the pleasure of sitting here with Bill Farron. Bill, thank you for taking the time. Really
My
appreciate
pleasure,
it.
Tom. My pleasure. This will be fun.
Back in 1977, you became the first president of Travis Pointe. We're going to circle back to that, but what I really want to know is before there was a Travis Pointe, what happened to create it? And something about a Black Angus cattle ranch?
Okay. Well, it began when I first met Dave. This property was a Black Angus cattle ranch or feeder lot, whatever the proper expression would be. But there are a lot of Black Angus cattle on this property. So we rode around while the course was being developed by Mr. Newcomb. Rode in an old pickup truck with Dave, saw the different holes being created, and it was kind of fun. But prior to that, we had, when the course was underway, before that started, you had a bunch of approvals that were required to create the PUD for this total community. And so you had a team of architects, engineers, lawyers, golf course architects, and so on. And so we had a big team that did the development paperwork and drawings and interacted with the township for approvals and the county and so on. So here's a piece of, so to speak, raw property. And I think it was in excess of 300 acres, but I don't know exactly what the proper number is, that was developed into housing, a wonderful club, and a different kind of club. And what is different about it is the fact that it was not just golf in the summer and swim and tennis in the summer and then closed for 3 months in the spring when it was cold. Here we had a full club year-round. That is to say, there was indoor and outdoor pools provided, there were indoor and outdoor tennis courts, racquetball courts, interior dining, plus the championship golf course. So it was rather unique. There hadn't been that kind of a development or that kind of a country club created, to my knowledge, anywhere in the state at that point. Now that maybe I'm wrong about that, but it certainly is one of the few. So it's quite a tribute to the Simmons family that they created this concept, and here we are with this wonderful facility, this wonderful community. You've got a nice variety of all kinds of people. It's just terrific. So,
How did you become the first president?
well, it was interesting because Dave Simmons, who was the developer, had this team, and he needed various signatures for county applications, liquor control commission applications, and a variety of things. So he needed people to sign these different requests. So he appointed me as president. He appointed one of the other members as the vice president, another one for secretary. So all of us in the design team, or almost all of us, were assigned some kind of a position so he could go forward. So I wasn't really elected. I was kind of appointed. And so that, in some ways, is kind of unique as well. So I don't know at what point the presidents were elected, but it was, I think the first 2 or 3 were appointed by Dave or his family. So it's kind of different.
Yep. Looking back from when you were president versus today, what's changed?
Well, you know, it's really matured. There's been a number of renovations to the building. I feel grateful that the original design that my partner Don Vroom and I created with the developers, Dave and his family, particularly Dave, has really received all these renovations fairly well. I think it's remarkable that we haven't had too many difficulties with the original building plan, accepting the changes and additions that we've done, all of which have been very good for the club. Mm-hmm. And that's physically a nice change that's occurred in 40 years. All of the grounds have matured. I mean, when we started, there was no housing on the north side of Travis Point Road. The few houses had already been started on the south side in what is now the estates. But the north side, where all the condominiums are, was vacant for a period of time. And so this property, it appears that we're sitting on a hill. We're not. It was all constructed 2 stories high on grade,
Really?
on flat ground. I mean, if you look around, this is an anomaly right here, which it was intended to be because it gave it a nice presence. It came in, it was elevated, so it had a nice design quality to it. But all the elevation or the hill that we have here, it was all created. And you have all the ponds that were dredged for material to backfill, as they call it, construction-wise, to form the ground around the building. So this is a funny little aside. There's a large, I can't remember, 20,000 gallon tank that was wheeled in underneath the kitchen into the basement, and there's no way you can get it out. It's done. There's, it's there for.
You have to take out the building.
It was for the fire protection system. But there's a couple of other things that made it unique here too. There's a sewage treatment plant that was approved after some difficulties, I might say, in the township. Agreements were formed so that was there was a reserve fund in the event that repairs were needed or there was an issue with it, but there's a sewage treatment facility. It was first area where you could have golf carts in the private roads, and it became almost a resort sort of development. I mean, it was just awesome. If you live here, I think everybody that does will realize and knows that it's so convenient, it's so slick to be able to just drive over, play golf, visit the club for dinner, or whatever it might be, swim, exercise, whatever. But that was, I think, the membership too. It was really something. When the club was developed, there were, as I recall, somewhere in the vicinity of maybe 9 membership categories. I mean, everything you could conceive of, we had. So at that point, there was probably close to 1,200 members in that vicinity, and it was a lot of vitality, and everybody was excited. And this feeling, I think, is still here in the club today. And it's one of the things that always made me very happy about this club was the membership. It is diverse. It is in most respects. What do I want to say, self-made members that have worked hard and are able to enjoy that labor and this club. And it's a quality that's very nice, and you get a lot of good interaction of people. Everybody's friendly, and it's been that way for every year, and I've been blessed to be here for Margie and I for 40 years. So
well, Bill,
it's terrific.
You know, from a black Angus cattle ranch to this huge complex today, your contributions have been wonderful, and we thank you for that. And
Well,
thank you for helping us document the history of Travis Point and celebrate the 40th anniversary.
Well,
too.
it's fun to do, and I'm delighted to do it, and it's been quite a trip for me as well.
Great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm Bill Farron, and I'm happy and delighted to talk with the co-founder of Travis Point Country Club, Dave Simmons. David, welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes. One of the things that I think everybody's interested in is how the idea for the club began, what kind of preparation was done with you and your family, and the idea to get this country club community underway. And at what year, when was it, in the early 70s or mid 70s? How did you get started? What was the germination?
The property was originally a feedlot, and I think one of the pictures that's hanging around here shows that feedlot. It was on Brasso Road, and my brother being in the cattle business, it was appropriate, and it got too expensive to farm it. So my dad basically came to me and says, "What are we going to do with it?" And I said, "Well, we can develop it. It's probably ripe for development between Saline and Ann Arbor." And I said, "Do you have any ideas?" He said, "Well, I kind of always wanted to have a golf course, since he's an avid golfer."
Yeah, that's good.
And I had belonged to Barton Hills since 1939, I think it was. And so I said, "Okay, well," at that time, Barton Hills was essentially a 9-month-a-year club. Had nothing other than dining, had nothing in the winter, and it shut down basically from January through March. And it seemed to me that you're paying for the whole facility, you should be using it. So the whole idea came to me to have indoor facilities. So that's how the indoor tennis and swimming came about. And that was in '74, I think we thought about that.
I see.
A friend of mine and Bill's, Denny Pearsall, introduced me to Bill.
Yeah, that was quite a while ago, Dave.
And we got together to discuss designing this place. And this is what we came up with.
Yeah. Well, interesting, Dave. I always found it interesting myself how the club was named, how you developed and how you found the name for Travis Pointe. That's an interesting story.
Well, yeah. I had an entirely different idea for it. I wanted to name it Haystack Golf Club. My dad didn't like that at all. And so I said, well, we can name it Travis Pointe, which Travis is my middle name, and was his mother's maiden name. And he said, oh, I'll accept that one. So that's how we came up with Travis Pointe.
Well, I think that's, I don't think very many people are aware of that. That's how it was developed, but I always found that very interesting. Let's see, let me see. You talked about the cattle ranch. I remember that. And I remember you and I riding around in I think it was a Dodge pickup truck.
Very
when
good.
the course was being developed.
Very
What
good.
what was your interaction with the development team? Explain how that in the situation with Lodi Township, the approval process and the
Approval process was, like most governmental contacts, it was a pain. Lodi Township really didn't. They were interested in it, but until we came up with the idea of a sewer plant, and they canceled that idea entirely. They didn't like that at all. We ended up flying 4 or 5 of the township board members to someplace up north where they had a similar plant that we were talking about building, and so that they could see it. And so they were more accepting of it, but they still didn't. The board didn't want to go along with it. We ended up having to sue for it to get it approved, and they finally relinquished because they didn't want to pay for the lawsuit. And that's how we worked it out. But the development team, Bill and Walt Lewis, the engineers from Washington Engineering, and John Beckett and Paul Rader from Beckett and Rader, we spent a lot of time together. I know Bill's probably spent more time with me than he did with his wife for a year or so.
Well, it was interesting, I think, too, Dave, explain how the first officers were, how the powers were delegated to the first officers. What you were obliged to do, because you and your entity were in charge of the club at that time, and so you appointed
Requested.
the officers. Yes,
I requested
right.
that basically members of our team became the initial officers of the club because the state required to have officers in order to have a liquor license. And the interesting part with the liquor license was you had to be in existence for 2 years before you could get a club license, which could have been suicidal because it's hard to have a club without having a bar. For 2 years, it's awfully expensive. But I managed to find, at that time, John McDivitt was helping with our financing, and he was also had been one of the initial residents of Chapel Hill condominiums off of Green Road. And when they built that, they set up a separate organization before they took the project on from the developer. They had a separate, so there was 2 organizations, and one was the condo members. It was called Burbank Residents Association. And for some reason or other, he had kept that corporation going. Even though it had been many years, he kept filing the paperwork for it. And he said, I just happen to have a nonprofit organization that we can utilize. So we ended up becoming board members of the Burbank Residents Association and the Chapel Hill condominiums. And they became, and after about 6 months, they dropped off of this organization, and we changed the name to Travis Pointe Country Club. And then that's how we got around the liquor license requirement.
Yeah. That was very fortunate for all of us.
It was.
Yes.
It was.
What did you and your mother and dad? What was the proudest moment when beginning of the club or getting? I don't know what kind of activity or milestone was there that really made all this effort that you and your family did to create this club? What made it special?
People joining, I think, as much as anything. You know, when you're opening up a multi-million-dollar operation, and it's a private club, you have to be concerned with whether you're going to have people supporting it and by joining. And fortunately, we had a very good response to it. As a matter of fact, it was an excellent response. Within the first year, we probably had, I think we had 400 or 500 members signed up.
Yes.
And there was six classifications, I think.
Oh yeah, I thought that there might even be more than that. That there was
Might have
there were
been
a lot.
might have been 7 or 8. Every facility had its own membership, and then you had the combinations of them. But just the fact that people joined and were willing to pay a deposit to join, which we initially had a deposit, membership deposit, so that if you didn't pay your bill, we could collect something.
Right.
Nobody seemed to mind that. And it was refundable if you left, so.
Yeah. Well, I know your mother and dad enjoyed the club. They were both avid golfers, and as you were at the time, and it must have been an honor and fun to look at this club as quite an amazing accomplishment.
Still
and
is.
To be very proud of. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it's still, I have a lot of pride in the place. Fortunately, we have a real good, did then and still do, have a real good group of members who have supported the club in its revisions over the years. When they bought it, there was a major revision, and there was, I think, 1,100 members when the members bought it. We're down to
600.
something. A good chunk of those were social, more social than any other classification. But still, it's the members have stuck with it and supported it and worked hard at it. And I think that's really made the club. You know, you can't, developer can only do so much, and then it's the members.
So another question for you, David. When did the club officially open, and when did they have the first men's invitational?
Oh, the club officially opened July 23rd of '77. But we had, the first invitational was in '76, before it got seeded. And we had 30 people out here in the dirt. And of course, it was all, the dirt, everything was, the greens and everything were all laid out. But just for fun, we thought we'd have, so we had 30 people out, and the golf cart people lent us carts. And we had a bar cart, which I drove, but I couldn't play at that time because I removed my finger the week before.
Yeah.
And you could just see these dust trails going down the fairway. The people in a rubber tee, so you hit off a rubber tee towards the green. And if you got on the green, it was an automatic 2-putt. And everybody just covered with dirt, and they got done.
And then there was only, the first year there were only 9 holes open, as I remember, and the full 18 was opened in
The following spring.
the following spring.
Right.
So quite a history.
Yeah.
Quite a history.
Yeah, and the back nine was kind of parts of it were a rock garden. I know a couple of people quit because their clubs got so chewed up from the rocks, especially 16 and 14, 16 and 17. They were just part of a gravel pit. It was, yeah, seriously, they really just chewed up those clubs.
Well, and
Until we got a turf.
Some clubs were replaced, as I remember.
Yeah,
too.
we replaced some
Yeah,
clubs
that's true.
and until we got the turf up.
Boy, there's got to be some
Yeah.
more stories here for you, David.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Need a couple glasses of wine.
Yeah, we get some more.
Yeah, you should put that in the bar, and then you just let it run.
Next up is our outstanding green superintendent, John Seefeld. So, John, let me ask you this question. This is your first job as a head green superintendent, is that correct?
That's correct.
So it's been 30 years, roughly, that you've been here?
23 years.
23 years, okay. So, you're interviewing for your first job. Our general manager at the time was Dick Hazelschwartz.
That's correct.
You had to be a little nervous going into that interview.
I was nervous. I had a wonderful plan of attack. The interviewers were set up, I think there were about 8 groups, eight people in the group. They were sending their questions off, and I was handling them the best I could. And I looked over casually and saw Mr. H, and he was slumped over asleep. And I thought, well, I guess I don't have this job if I put the general manager to sleep. So we finished up the interview and shook hands with everyone, and I went home a little dejected, but thankfully a week or so later I got a call and got a chance to come down and visit with Bill Blanchard and Jack Barger and talk about a contract. So.
Well, it turned out fabulous for us. I hope so much for you, too. You inherited a pretty good golf course 23 years ago. It's better now. What have you had to do to incorporate some of the changes that you've put in place, maintenance-wise, design changes, anything else? Talk about that.
Well, we've been very fortunate. The club has been supportive in all our construction needs. There's a laundry list of what we've been able to accomplish. We've added a short game facility. We've enlarged the driving range tee, put in target greens, new irrigation system, new bunkers, new drainage in all the bunkers, enlarged some fairways, rebuilt some tees, asphalted our cart paths, rerouted them as well. And one thing that people probably don't remember is we've removed close to 1,000 trees in that 23 years. We've had the Imprellis damage, Dutch elm disease, bronze birch borer, the ash borer, and then Diplodia tip blight. So 1,000 have gone out, and I think since I've been here, maybe 250 have been put back in.
So what is the biggest challenge now going forward for you?
Just the fine tuning. I think we have Mr. Newcomb built a beautiful course, and now I think it's just doing the final little touch things such as leveling tees, dredging ponds, rock lining, making sure everything looks very neat and tight.
When you dredge the ponds, there's any Titleists with a black dot above the eye. Those are mine. Can I have them back?
You can. I doubt I'd find it.
What's your favorite part about being here?
This membership is outstanding. I'm so fortunate. When I talk to other superintendents, and my tale of woe is, oh, shoot, I wish I had another body or another bag of divot mix, something like that. I don't hear those stories from other people. We have a membership that I consider as many friends as bosses, and it's really a unique club, and I couldn't be happier and more fortunate.
What would you like to add?
Add to the golf course?
Add to the golf course, add to your comments, add to the golf course. If you were the omnipotent dictator and said, I could do this, what would it be?
I'll leave that for the next superintendent.
Chicken.
Yes, I would love to see a uniform monostand grass in the rough. Right now, we have a mixture of 5 grasses. I inherited it, and I probably haven't helped change it out completely, but that would be, I think, a really neat thing for Travis Pointe with our white sand and our fairly consistent fairways and greens. A uniform stand in the rough would be great.
John, you are an outstanding asset to this club, and I think I speak for every member here when I just say thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Thanks, John.
I'm sitting with Keith McBride, a Travis Pointe employee for 31 years. Keith attended Michigan State University, where he studied hotel and restaurant management, and today that program is known as hospitality management. Every Travis Pointe member knows that the terms Keith McBride and hospitality are synonymous. Keith, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Wilczyk.
Why were you hired at Travis Pointe?
I was hired after I graduated from Michigan State. They were looking for a night manager, someone to come in and run the restaurant in the evening time. And I was looking for a job. I was hoping to find something not in the classical term of restaurants. I wanted something a little more where I could focus on regular clientele, and country clubs, private clubs fit that bill.
Perfect, perfect. So what's your job today?
I am in charge of the restaurant as far as staffing, ordering, beverages, everything outside of the kitchen walls. So the chef takes care of the kitchen and I do everything out front. Training the staff, working with Aaron and the other managers as far as making sure we have hopefully enough employees on the floor to give service to the members the way they would appreciate it to be, and trying to keep them all up on their needs. Making sure that we have enough of beverages, that we're kind of keeping the wines that the members like, and I really like and enjoy dealing with the wine aspect. The wine locker people are probably some of our more favorite members, and we appreciate trying to find the wines that they like and keeping their lockers full, which some members use more than others.
Well, I can tell you do a fine job pairing the wines with the selected foods. That's wonderful, just wonderful. So, over the years, things have changed at Travis Point. What do you feel is the most significant change from when you started versus today?
Well, definitely, I mean, there have been a lot of changes overall, the whole operation, but my focus obviously being in the restaurant, I would have to say the renovation when we moved the majority, or we eliminated all of the food service that was downstairs on the lower level. Some of the older members will remember that we had 2 rooms downstairs, the trophy and the trellis rooms. That was our casual dining area, which is where most of the business was, where the members ate. And those 2 rooms were small. I don't remember exactly, but I think we had about 70, maybe 80 seats down there with a bar.
Wow.
And it was very interesting, obviously, because the kitchen is on the upper level, and all of those lunches were served downstairs. So that required a lot of connecting of employees, as far as somebody to bring the food down to the servers. And obviously, it was quite a distance to do that. Thank goodness we have an elevator that is still working, thanks to Mike Miller. And we were able to do that quite often. The biggest problem that we always had with that being the situation was that also the quarterly minimums were every quarter. So everyone's minimums ended in March, June,
Right.
September, December, not separate months like they do now. So what always happened is the last week or 2 weeks of each quarter, we were inundated with lots and lots of people coming in to spend their minimums, and it was just a crazy. Every night was just crazy. We actually joked about the fact that someday we should make up T-shirts for all the staff that they could wear that said that they survived the end of the quarter rush. Of course, that being said, now that things are upstairs and we have a lot more seats, we still have extra business on the end of the months, but it doesn't compare at all to what it was back then.
So how long were the lines waiting to get into that area?
Well, the hallway going back to tennis, quite often they were very long, not all the way to tennis, but pretty close. And I remember quite a few instances where members would come walking up to the room, either of the 2 rooms, the trophy or the trellis room, and stare at people who they thought should get up from their meal so that they could sit down and eat their meal quicker. Don't remember any fights from anybody, but that made it very interesting when that happened.
That's neat. Keith, why have you been here for 31 years? Over 31 years.
I guess because I'm lucky enough to have the members put up with me for that long.
I think members really appreciate what you do, but go ahead.
I've built a lot of lasting relationships with them. I mean, I know it's still an employee-owner operation, but I feel that having been here, I've been able to build those relationships with the members. I've seen members' kids grow up. I've seen members' kids get married. It's a wonderful place where you can work for people that really care about the business, and people I think quite often the members are afraid to make a comment about food or service because they feel that's going to be taken as a complaint. But the way it is at Travis Point is we know the members are giving us that constructive criticism because they care about the club. And I don't know too many operations where you can work with people that care about the operation and wanting it to be a success. That's obviously a goal for all of us all the time in all the different departments. And we're lucky enough, I think, to have a lot of other key employees who've been here for a long period of time that feel that same way. And obviously, hopefully, they are giving the service that the members like.
Absolutely. Well, I can tell you on behalf of the membership that we are blessed to have you for 31 years. And you are a key factor in hospitality here at Travis Point. Thank you for taking the time, Keith.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Appreciate it.
I have the great pleasure of being able to sit down and chat with our esteemed golf professional and, more importantly, my friend, Mr. Michael Larrity. Mike, it's been 29 years since you came here. Is that right? 30 years?
28 years.
28 years.
Yep.
Okay, I knew it was somewhere around there. It was your first. It is your first head pro
My first
job.
head pro position.
Okay, so tell me about the process when you came here, what anxiety you were feeling, the interview process, how elated you were when you got the job, and then we'll get into the challenges from there.
You know, Bob, I always wanted to be a golf professional, and when I came to interview, the gentleman that was really adamant going after me was Lou Pesta. And Lou told me that, you know, I was going to be the next man in line. And in a way, I didn't believe him because I had just gone through an interview process at Orchard Lake that I heard the same thing, and I didn't get the position. And I had another job lined up. And it was in the golf business, but not a golf professional, which I always wanted to be. And so when he told me that this was going to happen, I had actually had an interview set up with Wilson Sporting Goods to be a sales rep. And I was going to make a nice living with them. And so I told him, I said, you know what, I'm going to need to know, I can't be strung out here, I'm going to need to know in a couple weeks. And you know how clubs are when it comes to, you know, making decisions. I knew it wasn't going to be, you know, easy to do it in 2 weeks. But he said that, you know, he had talked to the president at Orchard Lake, and I was the next man in line there, and that I would be a really good candidate for this position. And so it was funny, when I came here for an interview, the whole upstairs was brick and mortar. There was nothing up here. And I was thinking to myself, wow, they're ripping this place up. But I kind of wanted to be on the ground floor of something like that because I felt like I could make a difference, and maybe people, you know, could listen to me. And went through the interview process, and within 10 days I had the position here at Travis Pointe.
And we're very glad that you decided to take
thank
that
you.
position.
I
And I'll
am
thank,
too.
and I wish I could thank Dan Wagner, but nobody else knows who that is. He can okay, so now you're here. It's your first job. You got to look at this and say, "Wow, there's some challenges ahead of me."
It was a what I found out when I first got the job is, as all clubs were, it was a male-dominant club, and they had some male-dominant rules. And I always felt that, you know, if you could get the women involved in a club, then the club could become one as a whole. And so that was my first goal, to really, you know, make sure that the women were taken care of at Travis Pointe, because I already knew that the men were, because of all the committee meetings that I'd have to go to. So that was a huge challenge. At those days, you know, women couldn't play the golf course at certain hours. On weekends, I don't think they could play Travis Pointe before 11 o'clock. You know, there were men's afternoons that women couldn't play. And so we kind of went through a whole process, and I think the whole process took about 8 years to really get things flowing. And Travis Pointe's been on the front edge of all the different changes throughout the years.
One of the things I think that you've done, as well as I've ever seen it done anywhere, you talk about changing it from a male-dominant club to bringing the women in, but you've done an outstanding job with junior golf. Can you talk about that?
We've had a lot of good juniors over the years at Travis Pointe. We've probably put, 10 to 15 kids in Division I schools, but more importantly, we probably had between 80 and 100 kids for the first 20 years of my career here in our junior golf program. And like I tell every parent, you know, we're not trying to make Tiger Woods here. We're trying to make people that want to play golf the rest of their life. And so, you know, that's what we've tried to do. And if a kid really catches on and becomes a Division I player, more power to them, because they're the ones that worked hard at it. But my staff and I have been very instrumental in regards to teaching the game of golf, and I think that's helped bring the young people into the game.
talk about your staff for a minute. You've been the Michigan Golf Professional of the Year. Rocky Mullendore just got a big honor. You've been very, very fortunate to have some great people working for you over these last 28 years. And I think that's a great attributable to you and what you've been able to do. Talk about your staff and what they've meant to you over the years.
Oh my gosh, a staff makes a person, so I was very fortunate. I came up in the caddy ranks, and so I knew when I came to Ann Arbor that Ann Arbor had the Evans Scholar Foundation. They had a house here in Ann Arbor, and I knew that would be a great avenue to pull kids in to work our outside operations. And so I was really successful bringing those kids in here, and they were, they knew how to take care of people. I mean, that's what they did their whole life as a caddy. And so that's how we started. And then my assistants, I fell into some of them right away. And then as word got out, I just always told my staff if they come to work here at Travis Pointe, they could keep going up different levels and eventually become a head golf professional. And right now, I believe Travis Pointe's put six, we have 6 different assistants that are in the head professional ranks here in Michigan.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, it's really, that makes you feel good, because that means you're doing a good job for the people that do a really great job for the club.
What's your favorite part about Travis Pointe Country Club?
Without a doubt, Travis Pointe is a friendly place, and that was a huge deal for me because once I had a family, I wanted to make sure my family had an opportunity to play golf. And I have never heard one person in my 28 years ever tell me, hey, Mike, you're playing too much golf with your family's out here too much. And that was a big deal for me. That's one of the things that have, kept me here all these years. And the people are just nice people around here. I think it goes both ways. If you're nice to people, they're nice to you. And luckily here, they've been that way my whole career.
You've worked very closely, at least I can say this from experience, with the committees, the golf committee particularly, that I sat on for a number of years. There's some challenges that go along with that, but at the end of the day, it's all about the golf course. Tell me about your thoughts, everything about the golf course.
Yeah, without a doubt, I was an assistant at Franklin Hills for about I started caddying there, and I was an assistant and a shop assistant there. So I was there for 12 years, and I never got tired of that golf course, playing golf and being around it. When I went to Pine Lake, I got a little tired of the golf course, and I was there for 5 years. And one of the things that brought me to Travis Pointe is I've never gotten tired of the golf course, ever. You can change it so many different ways. The climate, the wind can change it. Your different sets of tees, which are 5, which are, that really didn't happen until Travis Pointe came along. All of a sudden we had 5 sets of tees, and most of the clubs had 3 sets. You know the days when it was the men's tees, it was the blues, the whites, and the reds.
Yep.
And that's what it was for how many years. And then all of a sudden I come here and there's 5 sets of tees. So Travis Pointe, you can play it every day and not get tired of it. And it's always been in great shape. John's a good friend of mine, and he just cares about this place so much and has kept it in such great shape for the members that the members are very lucky.
What would you like to add? Anything you'd like to say to the membership on this 40th anniversary?
Yeah, I want to tell the members that I really have appreciated my time at Travis Pointe, and it's been like family to me. I spend a lot of time here, but if I didn't spend time here, it never seems like a job. Every day I come to work, and it seems like a place that I want to come to, and I want to thank all of you for making it that way.
Michael, we're thrilled to have you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Bob.
I'm sitting with Guy Guarino, the general manager at Travis Pointe Country Club. Guy's been in the service industry for 27 years, 9 of which have been here at Travis Pointe. Guy's 9-year tenure is the longest tenure of any general manager at Travis Pointe. He holds several club designations and has been active in the trade associations that help make Travis Pointe a better club. Guy, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
As general manager today, what is your most important focus and where do you spend your time?
Well, I think there's probably two parts to that question. The most important aspect would be, I think for all of us and the management team, is to provide a quality experience for the membership and for their entire family, because we're a family-friendly club. We do very well with our attempts to offer a lot of social activities and amenities and for junior golf and junior tennis, and so I'd say that's for one of the things we're all focused on is creating a quality experience for the entire family. The second part of that would be, as the general manager, is to operate the club in such a way as to constantly improve the financial position of the club. And I'm glad to say that we have been doing that. In the last several years, we have improved the cash position of the club significantly, and which has allowed us to do a lot of different things.
The LPGA tournament, the LPGA Volvic Championship, adds a whole new dimension to Travis Pointe. Describe the impact.
Well, it's an honor to be associated with the LPGA tournament. I've had experience with tournaments in the past, with both seniors tournament and an LPGA tournament, as well as an NCAA men's finals championship. And at every club, it's been a real benefit to the club. A benefit both financially and also in getting the club's brand out into the community and supporting things like women's golf events and that sort of thing. So for us, it's just been a joy to work with the lady professional players. They're just wonderful to watch. It's just great to have them here at the club. Financially, it's been really good for the club, and it's also helped us get our brand out in the community in a very positive way. So we're very happy to have it here.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the impact of the community? Have you heard any dollars amounts that this tournament brings to the
Any tournament will benefit the local community with millions of dollars, and it has here also. It has with the hotel industry, the restaurant industry. It's been very supportive. The community's been very supportive of it as well. Many of the local businesses have sponsored the event on multiple levels, and so financially it has benefited the club as well as the community.
Perfect. We've seen a lot of capital improvements in your tenure. Can you talk about them, the important ones, and what was necessary and what was nice to have and an addition?
Well, in the past several years, we've been very fortunate to reinvest in the club about $1.6 million in capital improvements. The nice thing about that too is we've been able to keep up with trends in the industry and trends here locally. Some of the things we've done as far as conserving energy and that sort of thing is we invested in LED lighting and lighting through our clubhouse as well as in the parking lot, and to be a little bit more energy conscious. Other things we've done, we have completely renovated our tennis center, and we're fortunate to have 4 indoor courts as well as outdoor courts. And we completely renovated that, which now is state-of-the-art lighting, heating, courts, and as good as any court in the area. We've, in addition to that, staying current with fitness and wellness trends, we were able to update our fitness center. And we relocated that close to our indoor pool as well as our indoor courts, which basically kind of creates a sports center. So that's been very beneficial to our members. We've seen a substantial increase in usage when we were able to make that investment. And we've done a lot of smaller projects as well, car paths in the golf course and other things like that, all things to improve the amenity.
Well, I can tell you one thing, it's a very definite change with the capital improvements that have been made, and I think it benefits the club greatly. So with that, what do you want to see at Travis Point in 5 years from now? What would you like to get done?
Well, I think looking forward, I think one of our main focus would be to continue to provide a quality experience for the entire family. Not just golf, as golf is important, but in all other areas with swimming and tennis and social activities. And then to continue to grow the membership and take steps to constantly improve our financial position so that we can do some bigger and better projects.
Perfect, perfect. Well, on behalf of the Travis Point members, we thank you for what you've done. We thank you for your tenure, and I hope it's more than 9 years.
pleasure.
Keep it
It's a
going.
great
Would you
place to
please?
work.
Thank you very much, Guy.
Our pleasure to sit with Don Tyson, who became the president of Travis Point Country Club in 2002. And Don, okay, it's 2002. You just agreed to become the president of the club. Did you say to yourself, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah, kinda. And actually what happened was that John Abraham was the president and I was a vice president. And we lost John to a brain tumor. And so I kind of took over in midstream. And we had a busy agenda, a busy schedule, lots of things to do. It was kind of a baptism by fire. But I enjoyed it thoroughly. I had been retired from Ford for a couple of years, so I was ready for something, you know.
So, a lot on your plate. Talk about some of those things that were going on in 2002.
Well, prior to '02, late '01, the board decided that we needed a change in general managers. And that was my first challenge because John and I were basically instructed to go out and take care of it, which we did do, and it was really tough. But then the thing that followed that was the void to replace the general manager and the talent search that came about with that. So I told John, I said, well, look, I just live down the street. I'll come over here and I'll play general manager for a while. And I'll get to know the club a little bit better, that's for sure, and all the people. So I did. I'd go in the morning and we'd have a little morning set to, and do you need help? What's going on? What, you know, sharing everything that was going on with the operations. But I really didn't have to do anything because we had such a talented group of people that worked as a team. And if somebody was in trouble, you know, groundskeeper, well, they go to somebody else and he jumps in. And, you know, it was just family. So I basically spent the time understanding the business. It's quite different than automotive. And having fun and knowing the people and knowing their skills. And many of them, of course, are still here. Some of them, you know, 30 years that have been there. So it is a great family feeling for me. From there, when I was elected officially, so the biggest thing that we had on our plate was the club really needed refreshing. We had issues with the irrigation system on the golf course. We had heat vac issues because it's not a central air conditioning, it's a decentralized. We had issue with the fire protection system. The pool had an issue with it. So we set forth in trying to figure out how we can bundle this thing together into a package that makes sense for the members, financially affordable, and really go forward with a pretty good package. So, you know, for example, on heat vac, we had to look at everything from taking the roof off, pulling out all the furnaces, putting in a central unit, and what did that involve versus trying to fix what we had. So our meetings were 6 o'clock till 11 o'clock at night, and assignments handed out, and everybody went off to research their part of the assignment. And in the end, we put together a $4.5 million project. And now we had to pass it. The easy thing was the project. The most difficult thing was selling it to the members. So we had a number of membership meetings, and everybody did a splendid job preparing. It was a group thing. Everybody gets credit for it. Fortunately, it made sense. And I think $4.5 million, part of which the members could pay their share up front or do it over time. It got approved, 80% plurality. And for that, we put in a new irrigation system. We replaced we repaired all the HVAC systems by hiring a guy to spend full time up there in the attic. Though the fire protection system was repaired, paint, furniture, carpeting, all that was done. And some of it still remains there today. So that was probably the most gratifying thing that we did as a team. I didn't do it, the team, and then all the members that jumped in and supported it, and it was the right thing to do. So
It was the right thing to do. Congratulations, you did a great job, and I was one of the guys that voted for it, just for the record.
I knew. I went back and looked.
What's your favorite part about Travis Pointe?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been gone for 10 years. I moved up north with my wife and settled into our northern Michigan home, quit the club here, and then I came back. In June of last year, we bought a condo in the woods. So this is our second summer back. The favorite part about me right now is the transition that the club has been able to make. I was on the board of a golf club up in northern Michigan, and all golf clubs are struggling right now. Their members are getting older, like myself, and quitting or playing less. The filler stock, I'll call it, or the people that will take our place, are having a hard time joining country clubs because their whole lifestyle has changed. They've got children, and they're going to different states for baseball or cheerleading or ballet or whatever it is. It's almost like, okay, I'll take one child and you take the other child, and I'll see you when we get back. So there's no time for golf, or very little. So all golf courses that I'm familiar with, and it's a nationwide thing, are struggling for replacement membership. What you have to do is you have to make yourself competitive with whom you're trying to get in as new members, which means not only do you have to have golf, but you have to have tons of facilities for the young kids to want to come to, like a nice pool, like a summer camp, like junior golf, all the things that Travis Pointe is doing right now. And it's done, I must tell you, a marvelous job. So the thing that I really get a little tickled about coming back here is watching I call them ankle biters, watching the kids on the putting green, coming over here on Wednesday when they're playing junior golf. I mean, you can see the transition that's going, and it's seamless. And I have to congratulate everybody, all the boards, everybody that's worked so hard, because Travis Pointe has made the transition, and it's going to be very, very successful. So accolades to everybody that's had been a part of it. That's the thing that I enjoy the most.
And accolades to you too for being a part of it.
It's a team thing. Everybody's a part of it.
The pleasure to sit with Jim Drenning, who was a member of the board of directors back in the turn of the century. So there's a few things going on back then. I think your biggest challenge was trying to make sure the computers didn't blow up on Y2K. And since that didn't happen, what else was going on?
Well, it was quite an interesting time in the club because if you probably remember, the club was a little over 20 years old by that time. And it was felt by a lot of the members that we needed to do some renovations to keep up with the polo fields that just started up. And it was competition, of course, Barton. And the club was getting a little down in the tooth. So we, the board that I was involved with, decided that we wanted to put some kind of a renovation plan together. And it caused quite a upheaval, I guess is a good way to put it, in the club because we have quite a interesting mix of members, and still do, but back then we did. And we had members that basically started out with the club. They felt it was just fine as it was, no problems. They weren't really interested in spending a lot more money at the club, and so they had their opinions. We had members that were solid core golfers, and their feelings in many cases was this would make an excellent golf club, not a country club. So there was differences there. So it was an exciting time.
And part of the renovations included a lot of infrastructure inside. The bar, we changed from the old bar to the one that we currently have now. Tables, chairs, there was a lot of stuff, locker rooms. Talk about.
Well, now when we went through the renovation time at the end of the century, we were looking to expand the bar. That was one of the big things we wanted to do because the area was very crowded. We had already gone into the new bar area there, but it was tight. And those who felt that the club should be a social club as well as a golf club and a country club, that the bar area needed to be expanded. And so we had quite a plan, went through some consultants. We had some consultants we hired to put together a plan to do that, and it was rather extensive and costly. My feeling on it personally was that we got the club at a pretty good deal from the Simmons. In fact, it was a very good deal in terms of the value that we got for the money we spent to buy the club out. And we had equity in it. And the idea was, let's take some of that equity and bring the club up to what I would consider a first-class country club. So we put together a plan to do that, and it caused quite a bit of consternation around the club.
Is that the time, and I could be wrong, but is that the time that there was also talk about tearing down the clubhouse and building a whole new one?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
I don't remember that, Bob, but there was talk about doing some major changes. People, again, going back to the idea of, do we want to have a country club or do we want to have a golf club? And there are people who said, well, we got to fill in the swimming pool. That was just a money pit. So the indoor swimming pool had to go. The outdoor pool, we're not going to do much with that. Tennis courts, who plays tennis? So it was there was a lot of discussion around those points, yes.
Well, thanks for your forethought, because as it turned out, you made the right decisions.
I don't know whether we made I think we sort of fell into it, but the right decisions are that this is a first-class country club. And the young people today that belong to it, they look at it that way. And they're the ones that are really involved in keeping it going as it is right now.
What's your favorite thing, your favorite part about Travis Pointe?
The members. I enjoy of course, most of my contemporaries now are dying off, so I don't know. It's quite. Well, we have new members too, and but no, I like the camaraderie. As people here know, I like to spend time on Friday night at the bar and that sort of thing, and talk to people, and I enjoy that. But it's changed. It's changing. We got a lot of young members. And
when did you first join, Jim?
1981.
1981.
Yeah, we moved here from Boston and bought a house in Travis Pointe. and joined the club. Best movie ever made. Kids grew up here. They enjoyed it tremendously. And it made our family really, really enjoyed the club. It was a complete part of our lifestyle at that point in time.
Anything you'd like to add?
No, I just hope that we keep the club going as it is, and that I can hang around for a little longer and enjoy it.
Well, we hope you do.
Okay, try to.
Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome. Thank you, Bob.
I'm sitting with Sharon Say, a 34-year employee here at Travis Pointe. There is no doubt that she knows the workings of the club. Sharon, thank you so much for joining us and helping us document the history of Travis Pointe, as well as celebrate the 40th anniversary.
Absolutely.
Tell us about the surroundings and what happened when you were first hired.
Well, I was fresh out of high school when
Really?
I was hired at Travis
Wow.
Pointe. Yeah, 17 years old. So essentially, I've grown up here at the club. I was hired in the business office as a receptionist, and I worked there for 2 years in the business office. Now, many people don't know this, but the business office was not in this country club.
Okay.
We were located in a house over off of Brassow Road. And I don't know the address of the home anymore, but I was over there for 2 years before I moved over here to the country club. The secretary here was leaving, and so they moved me over here.
Now, were they building homes in that
Oh yeah,
subdivision?
there was constant construction traffic through there.
Isn't that something,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
All right, so your first job was a receptionist.
Yeah.
Describe your job today.
Oh my goodness, jack of all trades. You name it, I do it. But no, seriously, the bulk of my job is managing the membership accounts. I do the accounts receivable, and I work closely with the general manager and the controller with aspects to the financials and things like that.
Okay, all right. So comparing when you started in the 80s and today, what changes have you seen here at Travis
Oh my
Pointe?
gosh, probably, well, aside from the building that's gone on around here, when I started here, it was just, these were fields out here. But probably the biggest change that I've seen is the way we do things in the accounting. When I first started here in the 80s, we were still putting pencil to paper in ledger books, and that's how we were keeping track of books. We did have a computer in the office. We had one PC that 4 of us shared.
Wow.
So it was like taking a number to use that
Wow.
PC during the day.
Isn't that
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
So today, got rid of the rotary dial phones, and you've got no computer terminals that are bigger than this room.
Well, right, and we did have, our printer was that way. Our printer consumed an entire room. I mean, it was massive.
Was it really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I have to say that Guy actually has been instrumental in bringing this club into the 21st century as it relates to technology. He really has.
Perfect,
So-
perfect. Well, you have a very interesting hobby, and one that I'd like to hear how you started in it, and also how that's carried forth to Travis Pointer, and that's baking.
Baking, yeah. My mom taught me to bake at a very young
really?
age, and I've loved it ever since. It's people look at me and laugh when I tell them that it's my zen. It really is my peace.
Isn't that neat?
So literally after a rough day at work, I will go home and bake up a batch of cookies because it's relaxing for me.
Wow.
But years ago, I started baking birthday cakes, and it started with basically the management staff, and it's kind of morphed into now I kind of do it for almost everybody. It's difficult to do it for everybody, but I do try to incorporate as many people as I can. But then somehow that morphed into doing baking for the kitchen. They wanted fruit pies, and nobody wanted to bake the fruit pies. The other side of that is that the pies, fruit pies, they're hard to cut and keep the fruit in the pie. So we decided to go with a smaller pie and treat it as a dessert for two. So I volunteered for that job, and I think this is my 3rd year now doing that. And
Is that-
I love it, absolutely love
And
it.
I've had it, it's good.
Yeah, good,
It's
good.
There's
Glad
no
to hear
doubt
that.
about it. Can I ask you just one last question? And, you know, Sharon, you've been a wonderful, wonderful person for many, many years here. And what keeps you here at Travis Pointe for 34 years?
Oh goodness, this place, as I said, I grew up here. This place is my home away from home. These members and the staff that I've worked with over the year are truly my family. This is just, I am privileged, so privileged to have worked at a job that I love, number one, because a lot of people don't love their jobs. But to just have so many friends and family around me all these years.
Well, from receptionist to being a 34-year fixture and being very, very pleasant to very, very many of the members here, you're just a wonderful person. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it,
Thank you.
Sharon.
Happy to be joined by former club president Dennis Webb, president in 2013. Some things have changed since then. I know that you still can't get out of a bunker with great regularity. That hasn't changed. But let's talk about the challenges that you had coming in 2013.
Coming in 2013, there was a lot of different things that had happened. You know, after 2007, 2008, everybody had gone through a real tough time, and you know, we lost a lot of members. Things were a little bit tight for everybody. Things were a little bit tight for companies, and so not every company was going to allow their member to stay and be part of their company as well. Revenue was down, membership was down, and the board and I, especially the board, worked diligently to try to revamp a lot of the things of the club. And by things, I mean, you know, some of the ways that we raised money, the way we did some of the membership, and just as a whole, trying to make it a little bit more of a cohesive club, and push it towards a more family-oriented club, to where, you know, the days of the old guy going to the club by himself and without his wife and kids. Nowadays, there's almost only a certain amount of money to go around in families, and everybody wants to be together. So we really kind of geared it towards that.
Which is really the next question I was going to ask, and it kind of leads into that. Those are the kind of things that you had really focused on to
Correct.
expand the membership and to maintain, I should say expand the membership, not maintain the membership, but to grow the membership. Looking back now, 4 years ago, how do you think those things have worked out?
I think they've worked out very well. I think the board, one thing that was nice with the board, and I think the following boards, is everybody bought into that concept. I think the whole club bought into that concept. And a lot of other clubs we had been contacted by felt that they were 2 years behind us in going down that road. They were getting they wanted to get a workout facility. They wanted to make sure they had a swim membership with tennis. And it worked out very well for us to be ahead of the curve on that, and hopefully it stays that way.
When did you first join here?
1988.
1988. So, 20 years. What's your favorite part about Travis Pointe?
Well, of course, the golf course. you know, you have a world-class golf course, and that was one of the reasons why I first started looking. And some friends, we were at a U of M football game, and some friends said, you have to check this place out. It's got just a great golf course. And at that time, the facility was a little different. The bar was downstairs, and imagine that, I actually know where a bar's at. and so,
So did I.
yeah, so, but I also had, Sean had been born, and I brought him here, carrying him in a little basket, or whatever you want to call the darn thing, and they had a great kids program. And I think you know, your son came through the kids program here in the golf, and it's a world-class program with a world-class pro, Mike Garrity, and his staff. And I think that was probably my favorite thing. After that, I found out that we actually do have a swimming pool, and I've used it a few times. And in all, I think it's the membership itself. When I come here, I feel like I'm actually at a resort. And I actually gone on vacation, come back here, and this is nicer than the resort that I went to. And the golf course was nicer than what I went to. So I really appreciate this place.
I've said the same thing. Coming here is like being on vacation.
It is.
It really is. And you talked about junior golf. Your son Sean and my son Mike played junior golf together.
Correct.
A number of years ago. And I was talking to Mike Garrity about that earlier. One of the programs that he kind of helped to get kicked off. That and changing the membership as you started, saying it was more of a men's club, and really incorporating the women more and more into the golf course and to the point that they are now, which is fabulous. And then the junior golf program. Those kind of things, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's really what you were trying to expand upon when you became the president of the club?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, we have a wonderful women's program. I mean, you look at the Women's Invitational, it was the largest in the state. A lot of other clubs they're struggling to get even 60 teams to play at best. So it's a lot of kudos to the staff here for running a great tournament, and Chef Bill and everybody. It's phenomenal. Also, one of the things I learned too is you have people like Mike Miller and John Seefeld that really aren't out in front of everything with people's eyes on them. But when you see how wonderful the course is and how well maintained the club is, these guys are our unsung heroes.
I agree wholeheartedly. What else would you like to add?
Oh, I just hope that it keeps moving forward. We always know nobody wants to spend any money, but sometimes you got to spend a little money to make a little money. And I think with the LPGA coming in, it's been a real kudo for the club. We've had to level off some tees and do some different things. And I think that if we take care of the club, it will take care of us. And I still want to keep the family atmosphere going down the road.
Wonderful. Dennis, thanks very much.
Bob, thank you.
I'm sitting with Al Mumby, the 2015-2016 president of Travis Pointe. Al, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. During your presidency, you and the board brought the LPGA Volvic Championship to the club. It adds a whole new dimension. Tell us about the process and how you see that all came down.
Well, early in the year, we were approached by Keith Carbo and Red Arrow about the possibility of hosting an LPGA tournament here at Travis Pointe. We were informed that there were a number of contenders out there, and as we worked through the process with them, I think it became very clear to them and him and the LPGA that Travis was the right place to have the tournament.
Obviously, and I know from my viewpoint, we had a very small discussion, and you asked the question, what would it be like, how would you feel if we had a professional golf tournament here? And I said, wow, it'd be something else. And I'm sure a lot of other people probably fell into line in saying that that was it, so I'm sure you had a pretty good consensus.
Well, it was one of the things I wanted to find out, and talking to you and a number of the other members. I wanted to get the feedback from the membership as to how they would feel about having a tournament here, because, you know, it's kind of a big undertaking, and people have to give up part of their golf course for a week and that type of thing. So I went around and I asked a number of people, and without question, I got 100% positive feedback about having the tournament here.
Perfect. That made the decision a lot easier.
It certainly did for me.
When it finally, you were not president when it teed off, but when you saw it in place, was it as you envisioned?
Yeah, very much so. I think for a first year, the tournament turned out fabulous. I had the opportunity to play in a Pro-Am, and I played with one of the players, and spent a lot of time talking to the player's caddy, because obviously couldn't spend a lot of time necessarily talking to the player, but the caddy at the end of the round said, "I'd just like to tell you that you guys are already in the top third of all the tournaments that the LPGA puts on."
Isn't that neat, huh?
Yeah.
Isn't that neat? Well, obviously that's a testimony to the golf course, and John Seafelt, it's a testimony to Guy Garino and his people, Mike Garrity. So, yeah, to me, it's just the right thing to do. There's no doubt about it.
I couldn't agree with you more. And you're right, it's a testimony to the entire staff and the entire membership, because the support that the membership provided from a volunteer standpoint and everything else has just been absolutely unbelievable.
Thank you for your leadership in making that happen. I appreciate it personally. What about capital improvements? During your tenure as president, there were some capital improvements. They may have revolved around the LPGA, but tell me about those.
Well, we did make some changes to the golf course. There were no changes that were made that weren't already in our long-range plan. We just used the LPGA as an opportunity to put them in a little bit sooner than what we had forecasted in prior years. And then the other major construction that took place was the renovation of the tennis facility.
Okay.
And I think the one thing to note about that is that the tennis facility was the first facility in the United States to use LED lighting for its lighting on the tennis courts.
That's neat.
And then on top of that, we used that opportunity to put LED lights around the perimeter of the golf course here.
Great, great. Well, there's a lot of great things that have happened in the most recent years, and all of them have made Travis Pointe better, much better. You've been a member for over 30 years.
I have.
What does that mean to you? What does it mean being a member of Travis Pointe?
Well, Travis Pointe is, it's a part of our life. It's where my children learn to play tennis. My children learn to play golf. We have a huge number of friends. We live here in the community, and we enjoy it very, very much.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So, I have to ask, what's it like to be the father of a 3-time women's club champion?
It's like I said, I got her the lessons here and everything. And it is a little bit difficult to be only the second best player in your house or your family.
Oh, that's neat. Anything else you care to say?
No, I'd just like to, I'd like to thank the membership and for all the support that they gave to me and the board when I was president, and wish them to continue to give them the same support to the presidents and boards going forward.
Perfect, Al. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
Thanks for your help. I am honored to be sitting with Jan Grieshaber and Karen Pagani. Jan is a original member here from day one at Travis Pointe Country Club, and Karen Pagani is a 17-year member. Jan and her husband Jerry have been extremely supportive and very active with the social events here at Travis Point since day one, and in a time frame when attendance was taken at the events, Karen and her husband Ed were top in attendance. Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. Let's talk about TPCC social events. Jan, how have the TPCC social events changed through the years, being an original member?
The New Year's Eve party has been canceled, and now it's a nice affair for dinner. And people still dress up for a dinner out, and it's a festive evening, but it's not a huge party where people stay for hours, as was the case originally. And I've thought about that as to why, and I think most people now spend more time with families for celebrations.
Okay. Karen, what, in your estimation, is your single most favorite social event?
Tom, that's a tough one because there's been so many that have been really wonderful here. But I would have to say that the 25th anniversary party has been a really good memory. It was a great event, wonderful food, great dancing, very, very well attended, and that's one of my most favorite ones.
Perfect, perfect. Jan, how about you?
That's a hard one too, because there have been so many that have been memorable. I like the concept of themes, which everybody seems to follow through on all of our events. But the most memorable to me was probably the bicentennial party, which we held in January. It was a huge turnout, a huge success. Everybody was beautifully dressed, and it was a wonderful celebration.
Perfect. Same question to both of you. Karen, how long have you been on the social committee?
Greater than 10 years.
All right. Don't really want to admit the whole number, huh? Jan, how about you?
Greater than 10 years also, I believe 14.
All right, so Jan, what's the best part of being on the social committee?
Meeting people and getting to have new friends like Karen and many others, which, not being a golf member, socially it was a little bit of a handicap for me in meeting new people and getting close to them. I used to swim a lot, but of course that's a very isolated event. And so meeting new friends and becoming familiar with them and their families in many cases.
Karen, how about you?
Oh, planning the parties. I love to plan the parties.
That's neat.
Yeah,
That's
just
neat.
all aspects of it and getting the word out to to our fellow members, and you need everyone to come out. That's what makes an event special.
Absolutely. All right, Jan, the club has instituted the Distinguished Visitors Program, and it seems like a very intriguing topic for this one coming up. Can you talk a little bit about the one that's coming up and how it all started?
The one that's coming up is a lady who is a constitutional expert. Her name is Chris Ann Hall, and I think she's going to focus on the history of our Constitution. It all began as a suggestion from one of our social committee members and a very active member in general, Al Pease. He is a graduate of the Naval Academy and hence knows some distinguished people. And our first visitor who spoke was an admiral with whom he graduated. They were in the same class.
Perfect, perfect. Karen, there are many, many facets to planning an event. I'm going to ask you a question. If you had to do the same function for every event, which one would you take? Food, decorations, or entertainment?
I would say that I'm probably most comfortable with the decorations aspect. I love taking the themes that we come up with for the different events and making the atmosphere, doing the club decorations, doing the table settings, the props, the floral arrangements. Chef has a great handle on the food, and entertainment usually comes by a recommendation from somebody on the committee.
Sure. The decorations kind of set the ambiance. Correct?
It does. It does.
Okay, so Jan, 40 years as a member. What makes Travis Point a great club?
The people, primarily. Again, getting to know people and their families has been a joy. My husband and I very much like the convenience of the club. Pulling up to the front door for many months of the year, having a valet park our car, and we're just very comfortable here.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Well, personally, I want to thank you both for your contributions to Travis Point Country Club. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and help us document the history of Travis Point. And good luck with the 40th anniversary party. I know it's going to be a winner.
It is going to be.
I'm sure it is.
It's going to
Thank
be a
you
great
very much.
event.
Thank you for taking the time today to help us document the history of Travis Point Country Club and celebrate the 40th anniversary. Marcia, a lot can happen in 2 terms. What is the most significant event that happened while you were president?
Well, I think the most significant event was the decision to repair and maintain the indoor pool.
Yeah, okay. Obviously, that's a big one. What process was used to help the board make that decision?
Well, we had just, a couple of years prior, members had voted on a major capital improvement program. And it was over $1 million to make renovations to the clubhouse, to the golf course, and the outdoor pool. But what wasn't included in that was any monies for the indoor pool. And they badly needed some help. We had some serious leaks. We were losing 3 to 4 inches daily of water. The lining needed to be replaced. The tiles around the pool needed to be replaced. And so the board, along with that, did an energy study to evaluate how much the indoor pool was costing the club. And we also attempted to do a usage study, asking members to sign in when they use the indoor pool. But at that time, the indoor pool was separate from everything else, and so it wasn't easy to see when members came in and out. And we relied on them to sign up. After several months, the board decided to call the question on the indoor pool, and it's fate. So we sent a letter out to members, and we advised the members of the concerns that the board had with the maintenance needs and with the ongoing cost of use, and invited members to come to some informative sessions. And they turned out.
They were heard.
They turned out, and they were ready. They did listen to the explanations, and they also voiced their opinions. Many of our members said, I joined Travis Point. One of the reasons I joined was because it had an indoor pool, and other clubs don't. Other members said, I joined Travis Point because it has an indoor pool. I don't even use it, but I still think it's important to keep it. And we had people coming out of the woodwork talking about how they did use the indoor pool. So it was decided that the board went back, and in lieu of now sending out a survey to members, the board decided that the club wanted to keep the indoor pool, and in addition to the repairs that were necessary, we decided to purchase a cover for the pool that rolled out each night to help conserve costs.
Perfect, perfect. So what do you feel are the best aspects of the club today?
Today, I think certainly the golf course is a tremendous gift to members. The the way it's set up, the way it's laid out, how it's maintained, our pro staff, it's all excellent. And I think the other thing is the friendships that are made here. Young people mingling with people my age and getting to know one another, enjoying one another's families. That's important.
Circling back, what about, was there any discussion of the fitness center?
Yes.
While you were president?
One of the uses, if members had decided that the indoor pool was to go, had been decided by the board that would be a perfect place for a new fitness center. And we knew we needed that. Our old fitness center was way back in the corner. It was very small. We had members complaining about it all the time. And so we did begin the discussions of.
Perfect. Well, it certainly is a very, very valuable asset today.
It is.
One other thing that kind of sticks in my mind about that time frame was the halfway house.
The halfway house was a problem at that time. It was in a little cubby hole behind the golf shop. It was difficult to service the pool people and service the golfers at the same time. It only would allow for a couple of people, a couple of wait people to be there, to do the cooking, to take the orders. And people waited long times. The menu had to be limited. So the halfway house was another concern of the board and put on a priority list for the future.
Great. Well, you know, when you talk about swimming pool, golf course, fitness center, halfway house, you covered an awful lot in those 2 years. You really did.
Well, it takes a board, it takes membership.
Absolutely.
And it takes good leadership on the.
And it takes great members like Marcia Knapp.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thanks,
your
Tom.
time. I appreciate it.
We have the great pleasure of sitting with Brad McPherson, our club president, about 10 years ago, Brad.
Yes, that's correct.
So, that time, what was going on? What were the biggest challenges you were facing when you took over the club?
The biggest challenge I think we faced throughout the course of my term on the board, which was 3 years, is we had a lot of personnel transition. We went through, I think, 3 chefs, and then at the onset of my presidency, our general manager, David Lone, resigned. So our executive committee spent a good portion of 9 months between the daily activities of the club, trying to make sure the club continued, and then also the process of hiring the replacement, which happened to be Guy Garino, who's here now.
So, the fact that David Lone resigned as soon as you took over had no bearing on you as president? Just curious?
You'd have to ask him. But that was about, I think I was president, and it happened fairly quickly thereafter, yes. So, no, he had an opportunity. He explained it was a lifelong opportunity that he and his wife wanted to explore, so they took that.
So talk about the search and finding Guy Garino.
That was a challenge. I mean, we as the nice thing about being president when I agreed to do it was that we had a strong executive committee, and they were a very instrumental part of that. As you know, no president does everything by himself. So we made the decision as an executive committee and as a board, we actually hired an external firm of consultants who specialize in general manager searches. So they came in. We had, I think, in excess of 100 applicants. Wow. We whittled it down. They helped us. We whittled it down, and then we spent probably a month or so lining up interviews. We went through a first round of interviews where I believe we had 12 candidates. We narrowed that down, and then we had additional interviews. So between the interview process, the daily club, the no chef at times, there was a lot of time spent here daily, I guess, managing the activities
And
of the
how
club.
often were you cooking in the kitchen?
Never. You don't want me to cook. I make good popcorn. So.
Well, the popcorn machine was
Yeah,
here,
well,
though.
there you go.
Okay,
So
was that
there-
part of you, too? the
Yeah,
thing?
sure.
Okay,
I'll make
perfect.
you some corn. So, no problem.
Tell me what, in your personal opinion, is the best thing about Travis Point?
The best thing to me about Travis, you know, I joined Travis when I turned 25 years old. I grew up not far from here. My family was a member. I came back after college having never played golf and got into golf here at Travis. Mike Garrity was the new pro at the time. So that was an exciting time. But so joining it at a young age, it was, you know, I think my wife and I were 26, which were, the exciting thing about that was everybody was so open. I mean, you know, you can come up here for happy hour, you go to the pool, and that's the big thing to me is the membership. I mean, the membership here is just welcoming, it's, you know, to all new members. And, you know, you develop your friends, and the people who are members here are now lifelong friends, and they're people that we, you know, talk about what's the next step in our lives and things like that. So to me, that's what's special about Travis, is just the membership.
What year did you join?
96, I believe.
96.
Yeah, 95.
I was just trying
96.
to gauge, since I was 26 when I joined. That
Okay.
was a few years before you.
Yeah, not many.
I was just trying to
So-
gauge.
So, but yeah, but you remember, I mean, you know, at that point it was like, hey, who's the young guy? But everybody was very welcoming. And a lot of those people who were at that time, you know, my age now, you know, they were here and they're still here. So, you know, it kind of becomes a place that you know, you get to know people, and over time they become, you know, very close to you. So that to me is what makes Travis special, is just, you know, that consistency and how welcoming everybody is.
So interesting you say that when you came here, you didn't play a lot of golf. Because I know you to be a very good player, and it really makes me angry
Yeah,
that you
right.
came here and you're such a good player now.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of practice. You can ask Mike. I used my, you know, as a member child, you get access to the club until you're what now, 24?
I think 24, 25.
So yeah, so I mean, I came every day after work and just beat balls and, you know, listened to, you know, got near Mike and listened and things like that.
Also, it was lessons through osmosis.
Exactly.
You didn't pay him.
Couldn't afford them, so I had to glom off Mike for free. But no, I mean, that's a big part of it. I mean, obviously the facilities here are great and the course is wonderful, but I think what makes us different is, you know, it's just how we make friends here. So.
Anything you'd like to add?
No, I mean, like I said, you know, my biggest thing about Travis Point is just, you know, again, what a community it feels like. You know, being on the board and being president has its challenges. I think that's something that, I guess my favorite line when I talk to my friends and play golf is everybody should serve on the board at Travis Point. So it would make everybody's life who is on the board easier at the point that they're off the board, only because everybody would have an insight into how, you know, it's a challenge to run a club. I mean, especially in today's environment. So I think that, you know, the board here and the board over time and the presidents that preceded me and have been at, you know, both before and after me, you know, all have the best interests of the club and have done a good job. So,
Wonderful.
Yeah. So
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
The great pleasure of sitting with Al and Florine Rensselaer, two of the charter members of Travis Point Country Club. That's 40 years, by the way, just in case you were wondering. And there is some significance as to when you joined Travis Point and where you built your home.
Well, we did not live here at the beginning, and we built our home in 1987 and have been in that for almost 31 years now, so it's been a long time.
We would often meet. Al would come from work, and I would come from home. And one of the times we even left our car here because we forgot that we lived at Travis.
There's a couple other stories about it.
Yeah, I want to hear those too.
No, nothing involving me, but anyway.
So you left your car because you didn't have, no cocktails in you.
No, absolutely not.
But your home is built on a piece of property that has some relevance to the golf club, is that not correct?
Well, it's in Travis Point, and that we just decided that we spent a lot of time out here, and we might as well try to find a place to build. So we actually bought the old farmhouse that was on the original property.
Right,
One of the farmhouses.
Simmons farmhouse, yes.
Yeah, and, well, no, it was actually not Simmons, it was, well, actually Dave Simmons owned it, and he gave the ladies a life lease on the property.
Okay.
And one of them passed away, and so the other one moved out, and he sold the house to us. We tore it down and built another one.
And you're still there?
We're
Yes,
still
we
here.
are. We're happy to be here.
And you play golf, I know you play golf every day.
Oh, no, not every day, about 3 times a week. That's my max usually.
And your husband, of course, as we all know, is the longest hitting player from the Silver Tees.
Well, that is really a lot, stretching it.
What's your favorite part about being at Travis Point?
Well, I think probably the people that are here, and the golf course, but this is where we spend a lot of our time socializing.
We have wonderful friends here, and we like coming over here, meeting them here, having a cocktail and having dinner, and it's not far to go home when you're finished.
With one car.
Yeah, well, yes. Well, usually our car now, but yes, one
right.
car now.
Right.
For sure.
The golf course, you both played it a bunch of times. What's your favorite hole on the golf course and why?
Well, probably number 4, which is a signature hole, but I mean, it has a challenge, and it comes up and bites you every once in a while.
My favorite hole is number 3 because I had a hole-in-one there.
Oh, well, there you go. Tell me about that.
Well, that was quite a story. We had friends here from Florida visiting us, and it was the day of the Oktoberfest. So we had to start on number 3. And the guys were teed off, and they were all crabbing because they didn't hit good drives. And my friend Peg, she hit off. She didn't like her drive either. So I teed off, and I was kind of on the left, and I thought, gee, that could be a hole-in-one. Alan said, no, that was too hard. I said, okay. So we get up there, and we look around, and can't find it. Sure enough, it's in the hole. So, thank you very much.
I have one hole in one of my life on the same hole.
Oh, really?
But I believe I bought you a drink that I made the day that I made mine, and I think you still owe me one.
Is that right?
Is that right? Well,
Okay.
she should tell you the last part of the story.
All right.
The last part of the story is that we always signed up for the hole-in-one. And Al, who'd come back from Florida, he would always sign us up. Guess what?
Oh, no wonder I didn't get my drink.
Yeah, that's right. And it was on the Oktoberfest day, so you know, most of our friends were very kind. However, I didn't care. If they wanted a drink, I was willing to buy them a drink. But
Well,
anyways,
Congratulations. How many holes in one?
7.
7. How many here?
5.
Oh, here?
Oh, me.
Oh, you've had
I had
5
5.
She's
I
had
had
5.
5.
No kidding.
Yes.
Wow.
Here, I think 2 or 3, and I guess the biggest one was the day that 3 people got a hole-in-one on number 16, the same day.
No kidding.
That was probably 15, 20 years ago. And I was the one in the middle. Dave Voida, our next door neighbor, got one. I got one about 12, 1 o'clock, and Bob Webster got one later on that day.
Incredible. I must have not been here that day either.
Yeah.
No, you must have.
You were always working, I think, right?
Yeah, you were always working.
That's right. What would you like to add? Anything?
Gee, no, not really, except it's just a wonderful place. It's a wonderful place for young people to bring their families. We have a lot of sports for them to get involved in, and we just love the course. We love the place.
Same here. It's a great place.
Thanks very much. Alvin
Okay.
Florian Wrestling. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
have the distinct pleasure of sitting with the lovely Judy Johns to talk about your history here at Travis Pointe, which I just found out you built the first house on the golf course.
We did.
Tell me about that.
We used to live in a house across the street on Brasso Road and the Simmons Farm, which was Omega Farms. And they decided that they were going to develop this property for a golf course. And it was kind of in the works. And we moved away and lived in Naperville a couple of years. And then Mike started his own business and we were moving back. And this was just getting underway. So we bought the first lot and we were the first people on the golf course.
On the 15th hole?
On the 15th hole.
Which was not the 15th hole at the time.
No, that was the front. And it was just real sparse grass, mostly dirt, but they did play the first invitational, the men did. Johnny Orr played and Tom Simons, who was the golf coach at the University of Michigan, and a lot of Cliff and his buddies from Barton. So, there's probably about 10 or 12 of them, and they played the first outing.
Well, I know, as being chairman of the Men's Invitational for many years, how much work you do to make that event special. What compels you to keep doing that, which, by the way, we greatly appreciate?
Well, it's my pleasure. I enjoy working with people, and I enjoy making our club shine, and I think it's a great opportunity for guests to come and find out for themselves what Travis is all about by playing in golf here and social events. So that's my main purpose, and Mike and I did start quite a few different things at the club, and the husband and wife, which now is the couples, but just things like that. That's why I enjoy it, and I like party planning.
And you're very good at it.
Thank you.
You were also very instrumental in the start of the junior golf program here.
I was.
Tell me about that.
Well, after we moved in, I had, my son was 8 and my daughter was 4, and my son showed interest in golf, and so Tom Racine was the pro here, and so I decided, ask him, I said, well, what about, why can't we have a little golf program for the kids, because it's a beautiful course, and if we can do it, that would be great. So I did start the program, and I had a putters group, which I had to have for Stacy because I didn't know what to do with her when we were golfing, and so we had a putters group, about 2 holders, 5 holders, 9 holders, and 18 holders. And the parents were very involved, and they walked with the kids, and we played every Friday.
Well, both my sons played the junior golf program here, so I appreciate that.
It was a lot of fun, and it was certainly a lot of fun to see how the juniors progressed and how many of them went into
There's been a lot of them.
professional.
I think there's
and-
6 or 7. I think Mike Airy told me 6 or 7 that played Division I golf out of here, and of course a few of them that have made it. Sarah Hoffman, of course, right now, who played with my son many years ago. So there's been great success thanks to that program.
And a lot of the young golfers also got scholarships for college, which both my children did too.
Oh, that's
So,
wonderful.
yeah.
That's wonderful. That's great.
So,
What's your favorite thing about Travis Pointe?
I just think the people, the members, and the more down-to-earth people, that you're just here to enjoy the amenities and just promote the club, but it's just a good family.
It is. I agree with you. Thank you. Anything you'd like to add?
No, but I'm very proud to be a member, and I try to promote it as much as I can. And I did have a little story about Mike when he was president. He was president, first time a president acted for 2 terms. He was the first one to do that. But he and Cliff Simmons had a little tete-a-tete about the having a monthly, not dues, but where you had to spend money.
Oh, the minimum.
A minimum. He introduced the minimum. And
so we can blame that on him.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you can. So, but financially, it was a period of time where the money was a little tight, and just thought that this was a way that we had to increase revenue. And Cliff, that was his thing, he was never going to have a minimum. But Mike said, yeah, I think we need that in the financial committee too. So that was one thing.
Well, I'm one of those people who've never had any difficulty meeting it.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think too many people do, so that's the one thing.
Judy, thank you for all you do, and thank you for helping make Travis Point a special place.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all you do also.
Dave Ligotti is a 14-year member and a 5-term officer of Travis Point Country Club and a 3-term president from 2010 to 2012. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you.
Let's start right here. Your tenure was the start as well as the continuation of the recession. Is that a significant event?
It is the most significant thing we faced. Everything we did, every decision we made was based on how that was going to affect the club.
Yeah. So tell me about the process and some of the things that you had to go through because of the recession.
Well, there was naturally cost cutting and cost control, but there were a lot of kind of creative things that we could do. Interest rates were declining, so we refinanced the debt a couple of times. We had the property taxes reassessed twice, and so we cut property taxes. And then we had to repackage memberships to make it a more affordable buy-in. During that time, it was interesting. We didn't have a problem attracting new members. The problem was we were having so much attrition that we were losing more than we were attracting. But it was important to keep the marketing flow going.
Sure. And obviously finances were key, and but it really was a questionable job, not only for Travis Point, but also for other country clubs too.
Yeah, and it was really gratifying that we had a group of people, not only the board and the members, but also the staff, who really resolved that we weren't going to become a casualty of the recession. And a lot of country clubs were. So we really pulled together and had that single focus, that we were going to survive it.
Well, congratulations. I think that that is a monumental achievement considering the conditions. And in spite of all that, in spite of the recession, there were still a lot of projects that came to the club and that were concluded during your tenure that are still here. What are those?
Well, one was the fitness center. We thought that would be a great way to enhance the facilities for the members and kind of show people that we're still here, we're still growing. And so we looked at various projects and decided that that was something that we could do in-house economically, and we actually built it out with our own staff, and then we were able to kind of creatively finance the equipment, and which we now own. And we could do it inexpensively, but it was a big impact. So that was a really important project, just not only for the facilities, but just for the morale and people's attitude toward the club. The other thing we did was we had to do a cart path renovation.
Yeah.
And we got a little bit lucky there, but something else happened that was really gratifying. We, in 2011 and 12, we had, DuPont gave us some bad fertilizer, and we had a bunch of our trees destroyed. And they settled with us on 2 different occasions, initially in 2012. I think that settlement was a little over $200,000. The second settlement came after I left the board, and it was, I think, over twice that. But we looked at that $200,000 and we said, what can we do with this? How can we improve the club? And the cart path project had been hanging out there for years, and it really wasn't enough money to do the cart path project. We probably needed another $100,000, and we did a campaign with the members to raise money through voluntary contributions, and they stepped up and contributed over $100,000, and that was the rest of what we needed to do the cart paths. So the DuPont settlement alone wouldn't have done it. But the combination of that kind of fortuitous event, and the members stepping up and helping out was, as I said, it was another gratifying event to have people step up like that.
You know, there were some monumental rains during your tenure, and there were days when we couldn't play golf because of flooding. What happened during your tenure to cure that?
If you look to the right, to the pond on the right-hand corner of it, there's a little drain. And we built a drain going from the pond to the culvert across the driving range. And so when the water level rises in the pond now, the water will exit through that drain, and it'll minimize the chance that it'll overflow onto the 13th fairway and the 15th fairway, 14th fairway. So that was something people kind of forget about now that we don't have flooded fairways, but some people thought that having a water feature going across 13 was going to be interesting, but I didn't.
That's for sure. Let's kind of circle back 3 terms as president. How did that happen?
Happened kind of a mistake, really. My first term on the board was up in 2010, I guess, and again, it was the economy. The times being what it were, there weren't a lot of people who were interested in getting onto the board at that time, and the nominating committee only had 2 nominees for the 3 positions. And they came to me and asked if I'd run again, and I wasn't thrilled with the idea. They were in kind of a bad position, and after having experienced it for 3 years, I understood the situation. So I told them if they couldn't get anyone else, I would do it as a last resort. And so you can kind of say I served a second 3-year term as a last resort. And was reelected as president 2 more times, and then had some health issues and had to leave before the end of that second 3-year term.
Right. You doing okay now?
I'm doing great.
Right. So, today, what is the best aspect of Travis Pointe?
This is such an easy question. It's Mike Arity and John Seafeld.
Okay.
You know, it's important that people are proud of their club, and you know, when I think about the influence their work ethic and their expertise and their professionalism and their passion has on our club, it's the single thing that I think of that makes me most proud of the club, day in and day out. And it's been that way for 14 years. And so it's an easy answer.
And a whole bunch of people would agree with that. Dave, you know, looking back, you were instrumental in a very, very crucial time in the club. And we thank you for your contributions. Thank you so much for coming here and helping us document the history of the club, as well as celebrating the 40th.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
I have the great pleasure of sitting with one of my dear friends, Mr. Jay Schutte. He's a charter member of Travis Pointe Country Club. And Jay, I think this may be the first time we've ever sat this close together without a cocktail.
You're right.
Dan? So we can't do this unless we're going to do it right.
It's not the proper way.
Thank you very much. All right, now we can talk.
All right. So, what are we going to talk about?
Well, you are a charter member of Travis Pointe Country Club. You've been here obviously since the beginning. That's what a charter member would be.
That only means that I paid my dues every month.
Yes, and you do. But you are the guy, one of the first guys that I met when I came here.
Good for you.
In 1984. And I think...
84, nice.
Yep. And
Good
I
year.
think, go ahead. And I think more than anything else, you, at least to me, personify what Travis Pointe is all about. All about the people and the camaraderie and the friendship. And you've been here taking pictures at every event that we've had to share with the membership for all these years.
I've taken a few.
Tell me about that.
Oh, no. But I just did it because we should have had some kind of a history of the club, and the people who ran the affairs needed something to remember their work. So that's why I did it. But if you're looking for me to say something about the club,
I am.
I'll put you at ease. You don't have to worry about what questions you're going to ask. I'll relate an incident that happened, probably 20 years ago. That'll epitomize what this club is all about. And it was where Irene and I, we were sitting, Irene, my wife, we're talking about where we might relocate if I retired. And we thought of all the places down south, and we decided to take a trip down the south and visit all the better country clubs. And I only had 2 requirements: that we go stop at a city that had a good football and basketball team and be on a golf course. So she went and got all kinds of brochures for all of better country clubs down south, and we got in the car for a 3-week trip, going down through Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, wherever, Florida, coming up through the Carolinas. And one of the things we noticed in stopping at all these better country clubs is the lack of activity in the evenings. There seemed to be like nobody in them. And in one place there was just one guy on a Saturday night sitting at a bar alone, and he said, people don't socialize here, which was not like Travis was. So as we were nearing Ann Arbor, we discussed what we're going to go for dinner, and I said, well, why don't we go to the club? She said, yeah, good idea. So we parked in the back here, came up the back stairs, walked into the bar area. It's just about 6 o'clock cocktail hour, and here all these people are. Jay, Irene, where you been? How you been? We looked at each other and we knew that the warmth we got from them far exceeded the warmth we had ever gotten down south. So we knew this was going to be our permanent resident. To put another way, the buildings here, the swimming pools, the tennis courts, the beautiful country club golf course are great, but really it's the people. Travis has got a great covey of people, and they make it. They made it in the past, they're making it now, and I'm sure they'll make it in the future.
And they make it because of people like you.
Peace.
Thank you, my friend. One, I think, has become sort of a tradition here, and I'm not sure who started it, but after you tee off on 11 and you go by your house and your garage door is open, where do we go?
Shooty Shot Shack. It's a place where you're welcome to come in and have a shot of Jägermeister or whatever else is in this refrigerator. But I'll relate to you one story about this particular location, and it happened not this year, but last year's invitational. At the Saturday night for the formal dinner, I happened to go into the garage, and there was 2 couples standing in there, and they were all dressed up in their 9s already. And it was a new member who'd only been a member here about a year, who had brought his invitational partner and his wife into the shack. He had to show them this. He said, I just had to show them what kind of people are on this country club. He said, I can't believe it. And his guest said, boy, if we lived here, we'd belong. That's what it was all about. So the shack has some merit for it anyway.
And there are how many pictures posted on the wall?
Got to be at least 40, 50.
Most members, a lot of guests, some LPGA touring pros that stopped in, some former PGA touring pros that have stopped in.
One's got her arm around our photographer. She looks like she weighs a little more than he does, but that's okay. All right, that's it.
One of those great traditions of Travis Pointe, Shooty Shot Shack. The smoothest shot you'll have all day.
My only fear of telling the story about the shot shack is that if people think it's a cool thing, there might be 1,000 pictures on that wall before it's over with.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah, we don't have to go up the ceiling.
I have the pleasure of sitting with 35-year member and the 1992 president of Travis Pointe Country Club, Mike Hype.
Glad to be here.
Mike, what is the single most significant event to your presidency?
Well, the club was in turmoil when I became president. In 1990-91, we did significant improvements to the club, to the clubhouse. It's when we built, got the new dining room, we built the 19th hole and other improvements. And what it did is it created a substantial amount of mortgage indebtedness for the club. And the club's plan was to pay that mortgage indebtedness off gradually by special assessments on members. There were a significant number of members of the group who didn't like that idea. Their idea was to reduce significantly the initiation fee for golf members, increase the golf membership, therefore have more monthly dues, therefore not have to do the special assessments. The board was deeply opposed to that. The club was very divided. And Lou Pesta, who was the president in '91, he couldn't take the stress, so he quit and left presidency and left the board. Without talking to me, actually, the board members voted or decided to make me the president.
Congratulations.
So what I came up with was this plan. I said to the board, I believe that we should give this group a chance to make their approach work. I said, I'm confident that it won't work. But what we do is we give them sort of the rope to hang themselves with. And we come off as we're being open-minded as the board and we're willing to try that. And I said, we'll give them 6 months. We'll give them till June, which is what we did. And it was a failure. So the first July meeting, we decided, okay, we're going to come up with our plan. And what we came up with is we created a special committee to create a 5-year financial plan for Travis Pointe Country Club. And I wasn't on it. There were 2 board members, but we brought in like 5 non-board members because we didn't want it to be the board. We wanted it to be the club as a whole. Right. They put together their 5-year plan. We did 2 presentations for the membership in the original dining room. The place was packed.
Wow, wow, that's great.
And everybody was together.
Yeah.
We expected, I mean, the group that wanted to do the reduced initiation fees, they respected it. We gave them a shot. Didn't work. Came up with a 5-year plan, and we brought the club back together.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. That's great. What changes occurred during your tenure that are still present here at Travis Pointe?
Well, the major one that I can think of, and it's not while I was president, I believe I was on the board,
okay,
but I believe it was probably '91. Back then, everybody in the club had the same quarter for their minimum payments.
Oh, yeah.
And it was all, for example, January 1 to March 31, and then April 1 to June 30, and so on. And it didn't work very well. What happened was, the last couple weeks of the quarter, this place was a zoo. It was difficult for the members, difficult for the staff, the cooks, everything. And then, of course, everybody would use up their minimum, and then it would be a ghost town early in the next quarter. So what we came up with, and it's a brilliant idea, even though I think somebody with an IQ of 68 should have thought of it, was we created 3 quarters. And we split the club into thirds. So we still had a January 1 to March 31, et cetera. But then we created a February 1 to April 30th.
Right.
And then et cetera. And then a, whatever the next one would be, March 1 to May 31st. Yeah. And it was a great idea.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I don't think I could take credit for it, but I was on the board when we did it, and we all thought it was a sort of a no-brainer.
Well, I had the opportunity to talk with Keith McBride, and he went over the issues at that time and trying to service people, so it's probably a very, very good move.
Absolutely.
So what's the best aspect of the club today?
Well, this will come off a little unusual, but if we're talking today, I believe Travis Pointe getting the Volvic Championship.
Really?
For the
That's
LPGA.
interesting. Why?
I mean, what's good about it is, and I've been to every competition day and most practice days the first 2 years. This year I was blessed. It was a lot of fun to be a 4 caddy for the Monday Pro-Am. But I think what it's been good for, and what it's been good for us, is it's increased the reputation and recognition of and knowledge of Travis Pointe Country Club, locally, statewide, and nationally.
Correct.
And it's also something that really brings the membership together. And so many members are there, they're volunteering, they're working, they're in the skybox, they're all over the club. It's an event which really brings the club together. And I think it's been very positive. I know it's a 3-year contract, and we're up to our 3rd year, but what I've heard is that I think the LPGA likes Travis Pointe, so I think there's a strong likelihood that we'll get another 3-year contract.
Personally, I hope so. I
Yes.
hope so. I'm with you 100%. So what makes Travis Pointe a really, really great club?
Well, there's 3 things that I thought of. One is our facilities and, of course, our golf course. And when I say facilities, first I mean our sports facilities. We have an outstanding indoor tennis facility and outdoor courts. Beautiful and very good outdoor pool. We have the indoor pool and the new fitness facility. And we did a great job when we did redo this place back in the early 90s with, various kinds of restaurants.
Right.
The 19th hole, and the main restaurant and the family restaurant. So the club facilities are very good. The next thing is I think we just have a good staff. Keith and Michael Ray, they've been here a long, long time, and we have that consistency. And we have a great chef now, and just a lot of good bartenders and waitresses, and everybody's very nice, and so it's a good staff. And lastly, I think it's the membership. We have all different grades of membership. I'm just a social member. But I just believe there's sort of a family feel. And all the members are respectful of each other and are very opening and a lot of camaraderie. So, and I think we're fortunate to have, I think more than most clubs, so many homes within the club. And I don't know the statistics. I don't know how many of the people who have a condo or a home in here are members, but I suspect it's a very high percentage.
Yes.
And I think that's also quite positive.
Perfect. Well, when you look at it and you look at the history and you circle back to 1992 with mortgage indebtedness and the issues with the club, and you come back today and you look at the Volvic Championship, you look at the facility, thank you for what you did, because you were president in a very, very key and important time of the club's history, and you did a great job.
Yeah, and I feel blessed to have had the opportunity.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for sitting down with us, and thank you for helping us document the 40-year history of Travis Pointe.
Thank you.
I'm sitting with Lee Flake. Lee has been a Travis Pointe member for 9 years and served as president in 2016 and 2017. Lee is a native Chicagoan and has not stopped smiling since his beloved Chicago Cubs won the World Series, and you can tell from his sweater his allegiance. Thank you for taking the time to visit, help us document the history of Travis Pointe Country Club, and celebrate the 40th anniversary.
I'm excited to be here.
Good. Volvic Championship has added a new dimension to Travis Pointe Country Club. You were president for the tee-off, the initial tee shot. You were president. What has been the impact for Travis Pointe in your estimation?
Well, the Volvic was really exciting from the moment that they came to us and expressed interest in it. And I think the most exciting part was after the LPGA looked at the golf course, they said, this course is ready to be played right now. We can play the championship today. So that was very exciting, and obviously being part of negotiating that on behalf of the club was exciting. And I think the best part about the whole Volvic thing is the members were really proud of the club, and it really created a lot of camaraderie amongst the membership. And that was probably the most exciting part about all of it.
Okay, all right. Getting a little bit to the Volvic, you played in the Pro-Am, and I'm going to throw this at you. You played in the Pro-Am. How'd you do? The first Pro-Am.
The first Pro-Am did okay. It was really fun and exciting. Played with two wonderful young women, and it was just a great time. In fact, the caddy for Becky Morgan, he communicates with me on a regular basis when he's in town. He was in Chicago for a major last year, and he reached out to me to see if I could help him find housing there. So it's been excellent.
During your tenure as a board member and president, how were the financial conditions of the club handled at that time?
You know, the club went through some difficult times in the economic downturn of 2007 and 2008, and I think we struggled a little bit on where we see ourselves and how we see ourselves. And between 2008 and today, as we sit here towards the end of 2017, the board has done some things to really help the sustainability of the club. One was we implemented a capital fund, which continues to grow every year, which is terrific. And we've also been able to come up with a budgeting mechanism that is achievable, so to try to minimize assessments. And we've also created some new performance metrics so that we can really gauge where our membership's at and how we're doing there. So pretty excited about that.
So, considering that, what's the best aspect of Travis Pointe today?
Well, there's a couple of them.
Okay.
The first one is at a time where people are talking about country clubs becoming obsolete and golf courses becoming obsolete. After 40 years, I think our golf course has proven that it can stand the test of time.
Yeah, absolutely, that's right.
By hosting a professional golf tournament. So it's really a testament to Mr. Newcomb, who designed the course, and John Seafelt, who takes care of it, and his staff, and of course our head pro, Mike Airdy.
Sure. That's a good point. Tell me, what is your outlook for Travis Pointe? Recent president, what would you like to see happen?
Well, I think the greatest thing about Travis Pointe today that we're seeing is our membership is becoming multi-generational. So we have older members, and we're getting a new influx of younger members, and I think that's really what's going to keep the club sustainable for years and years to come.
Perfect. I appreciate it, Lee. Thank you so much again, and congratulations on a successful presidency and a great tee shot. First tee shot in the first Pro-Am of the LPGA Volvic.
Thank you.
Well, it is my pleasure this evening to welcome Bill Newcomb, who was the golf course designer for Travis Pointe. William, welcome. Glad you're here.
My pleasure.
Delighted to have you here, both as an old friend and as the golf course designer. And so I think the first thing we might want to explore is what kind of background do you have in the golf venue to develop and design the golf course, and what's your background? I think it would be interesting for everybody to know what that is.
Well, as you well know, we have the same background in the beginning. We're both architects.
That's
you
fun.
carried on the tradition. I opted out to golf courses.
But I would have liked to have done that. No, go ahead.
Well, I did get a master's degree in landscape architecture from University of Michigan here. And that eventually led to golf course architecture, although I didn't enter with exactly that in mind.
But you were also, as I remember, on the golf team. You were a golf coach here at Michigan. So you have some playing credentials as well as design credentials, I would say.
I did, and all of that as a background,
probably was not a very large jump to get into golf architecture.
I would think.
Even though it was not, I didn't go to school to be a golf architect, but boy, when it happened, it was very easy and a nice transition.
Pretty nice.
Yeah.
So here we have this wonderful community. How did you help to begin the process of creating this wonderful place to live and play? And what was the initial way it got started?
Well, it was initially started by Cliff Simmons calling me up and saying, I'd like to sit down, you and I and Davey, and want to talk about our farm out there. And I had known the Simmons a little bit from my membership of Barton Hills, which is the other country club.
Right.
And Cliff decided we needed another club in town.
Yes, that's right.
And so he knocked at our door.
Yeah.
And of course, I was very happy to finally understand what he wanted to do. And his primary reason for doing this, I think, was to have another top-notch golf club and golf course for Ann Arbor.
Well, obviously, he created that, and your development of this course is certainly exemplifies what he was trying to do.
Well, thank you.
I got some other questions for you. How did you organize? How did you look at the property and then organize the course to both be a championship golf course, but also to receive the housing that's a component of this club development? It's not just the country club; it's a community. So how did that develop? How did you do that?
Well, it developed, as you would appreciate, with a lot of options. We had a lot of options, and we went to the Simmons with several looks at this club. And I clearly remember our first effort here was to have a concentric golf course, and then the housing would be all on the exterior.
Oh my goodness!
And we ran some cost estimates on the housing part of it, and it was going to be too costly to run the roads without much density.
Yeah.
And you know, there are limits what people will pay, golf course or not.
True.
And but we began to change our thinking, and we did the reverse. We put the golf course on the exterior, and we shrunk down some of the housing in a couple of pods. And that worked out, is what you see today, really.
Well, in the process of doing that, were there features or landmarks or items within that property that drove part of the design? Let's say the Rouse Creek, old specimen oak trees. You know, we've got a lot of things that we started with that we don't have any longer, but were they?
Well, we still have the forest.
Yes.
And we have the streams.
Yeah, well.
We have nice topography here. I mean, what I would tell you is ideal topography for a golf course, which is gently rolling, with a few nice features thrown in. We were fortunate. This was about my, 8th, 9th year of practice. So by the time you get through those learning experiences, you know, you can take hold of it a little differently as an architect, and you have a different feeling for what you can accomplish and how you can accomplish it. So I thought that with the streams and the forest, you really have a forest in the back, in the front side there, and the ability to create lakes, pretty much where we wanted, because this was very solid soil. So very rocky, but solid.
Yeah. Well, there's a little story there.
So, you know, I looked at this as a really terrific golf course site, and then eventually, of course, you turn over the envelope that is to be housing, and you pinch that as much as you can, and then you negotiate out a little extra room. But I think in the end, the natural features here all came through.
Yeah. Well, I think it over the course of 40 years, that as we were talking earlier, the challenge of the course and the quality of the course is not diminished. It has been for many of us a constant delight.
It stood the test of time. I'm glad to see. I'm glad to see that.
Have you seen changes of any significance to your original layout? Has there been improvements? Have there been changes that you're pleased with or not pleased with in the times you visited?
Well, I'm always pleased when I visit out here because I used to have a golf club in my hand, and so we're having fun. But early on in the history of this course, and I'm going to say maybe 10 years in, maybe 15, I'm not real certain on that, the board asked us to create what amounted to a master plan, a long-term master plan that might suggest certain things. You know, architects are always thinking about, maybe I could have done that a little better, or maybe I should have done that a little differently. And so it was good to get that down. From an architect's viewpoint, we had a record. We had a record, an ongoing record. So, boards like to spend money to improve the facility. We suggested ways to do that. You can still do that today. Every golf course can do that.
Well, based upon that comment, we have new technology in the golf industry, and yet we have 5 sets of tees, and in some cases we've added a members tee. Are you concerned that the course layout will not accommodate the new technology or the older population of the club, or are you okay?
Well, I think I give a lot of credit to the club and to John and to your board for really having a true 5-tee system out here. You get a lot of opportunities for a lot of golfers, good, bad, indifferent, and then tournament golf. So you cover the bases out here, which is very nice without making many changes. You just change the tee location and you've got a whole different hole. A whole different hole.
How did you react to having the Volvic Championship play on your golf course you designed?
Well, I was happy about that, but they've had other tournaments out here.
Oh, yes,
it's been a great venue for tournament golf, and I always thought it would be, and it has been. But I was especially happy with the Volvic because it got some national attention and exposure for a club that probably is very deserving of that.
Well, how nice of you to say that. That's cool. Okay. Okay, let's see. Process. When we were working in the development of the community, how did the course design and implementation come about with all the disciplines that were involved? I can recall being a part of that team that most of us played golf, and that seemed to be a benefit in the creation of the community. It helped how you position fairways, the width of the fairways, and so on. Can you comment on how that helped the process? Or?
Well, I think it did help the process because everyone realized that yes, we were going to have housing. I mean, that was going to help pay some of the bills, and we knew that, and that's not a problem.
No.
You just give yourself enough space for the golf course, which is, and that's where I think the expertise of the committee and working on everything. You really have given a lot of space to golf, given some ample space to housing, and I think that's worked out very nicely out here.
I know that there's been some changes in liabilities for golf course design with respect to width of fairways and the way the housing is, how close it can be and what the liability.
Right.
Were you able to be ahead of the curve, you might say, with this particular course?
I think this course was ahead of the curve, and it was primarily due to the support we had. In other words, we didn't have to get 25 more housing lots out there. That's a big difference.
Yeah, that is a big difference. That's true. That's true. Well, Bill, this has been a treat for me. If you have any other kind of tidbits and comments you might want to make, I'd be pleased to hear those, but this has been a treat.
Only to reiterate what I said, that this course was intended to be a championship course. I think we did that as an architect, but very pleasing. Again, it was reasonably early in my career, but well into the career where I knew what we could accomplish with what we had at hand. And I think we did that.
Yeah, I do too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
My distinct pleasure to be joined this evening by George Lindstrom, a charter member of Travis Pointe Country Club, served as our president in 1988
And 89.
and 89, when we had just purchased the club.
Yeah, we had purchased the club the summer of 87. And then we took over January 1st, 1988. And the fun began.
Oh, well, how much fun was it?
Well, you're a successful businessman, retired, but you kind of know what it would be like to start a new company. And that's kind of what we were faced with. We took over the club. We did not have a general manager. We did not have an operating budget. We really didn't have any bylaws that addressed being a member-owned club. And we had all those things to contend with from day one. So it was a lot of excitement.
So who else was on the board with you back in 88?
Oh, you're testing my memory.
Well, just throw a couple of names out there. People that were specifically kind of helped in those.
Randy Harbour, Ed Zafis was instrumental. The late Jack Stenberger was part of the board. The late Ron Palmquist was a member of the board. Linda Baumgardner, late Linda Baumgardner.
Well, you killed a lot of them off.
As I was just running through that, I said, that doesn't sound very good, does it? Ernie Luty was part of the board. Charlie Zavorskas. And I know I've left out a couple, but I mean, that's most of them.
So you had a good nucleus of people.
It was a wonderful board. We all had the same objective in mind, to make the club successful. We knew it was going to be very difficult. And we had to go forward, and we all worked very cohesively together, and it was a great team. I mean, I'd put that team together any day.
So you have to hire a general manager. I know a couple of these stories. Tell me at least one story about your interviews with the first general manager and the applicants that were here.
Well, let's deal with the one that didn't get the job.
That's the one I'm talking about.
We interviewed, it was in front of the board, and it had been selected we were using a search firm, and there had been a nominating committee that had narrowed the field down to 2. And this one gentleman came in with, no offense, nice silver gray hair, ascot, white jacket. And during the interview process, I asked him why he had left his previous job. And he says, well, I'm from Chicago and I was drinking a lot. So that kind of ended the discussion as far as I was concerned. And then the search firm that we were using had identified a young man out of, I believe it was South Carolina. His name was Rick Bayless. And he said he's very young. He said he's an assistant general manager in South Carolina. Could be North Carolina, but memory's fading. And he said, but of all the people that he had seen in the country club business, that this gentleman had probably the most potential of anybody he'd ever seen. And we figured, the board figured that we needed somebody with a lot of energy that was going to have to be willing to put in an awful lot of time and work to make this successful, particularly in the challenges that we had in front of us in terms of operating budgets and bylaws and all sorts of other things that go with running a business. So we selected him, and I think we all felt vindicated when he went on to eventually become general manager of Oakland Hills. We think that, well, I guess he did have a lot of potential. So we felt,
Well, we trained him.
yeah, we trained him well. Exactly. We gave him every challenge he could probably expect. But it was. It turned out to be a very good hire, and Rick was with us for several years. And I can remember being over here at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and he'd be here with his girlfriend, going through getting paperwork done, and signing checks at 11 o'clock at night, getting them to the bank the next day. So it was an exciting time.
That's
a lot of
cool.
challenges, but it was an exciting time.
Of all those things that took place then, that are still in place now, can you think of anything like that, that we did this, and because we did this, it's still here now, and that was a good thing?
I think probably it was the vision that initial board had, which really followed from a lot of the other previous boards when it was a privately owned by the Simmons family. I think there was a common vision that we wanted this to be a family-oriented club that catered to children, but also catered to the higher lifestyle of being on the golf course, being club members, and also being a good contributor to this community. That was our vision back then, and in my judgment, I think that's pretty much what we are still in that way. So we feel pretty good about that. We had to go through a lot of challenges because we were going through a significant loss of membership between the buying of the club. We had asked people to contribute money to that, depending upon the membership they wanted. And then we went into, we realized in our first year that the club needed quite a bit of renovation. So we had another assessment to deal with the renovation. We lost quite a few members through that process. But all in all, when we went through the membership at that time, we realized that we had a very good core membership that was going to be willing to stay with the club, contribute, and make it successful. So I think it worked out.
And it has.
And
It has. And thank
we
you.
think so.
And
We
thank
think
you
so.
for
Well,
that.
thank you. It's in some respects it was a lot of fun. Then there were some aspects of it that weren't.
Of course, well, that goes without saying, right? Okay, so I was chatting with Al, the Flooring Rental, earlier, and they said that between them, they've had 12 holes in one in this golf course. I played a lot of golf with you. How many have you had?
I've had 0.
0, okay, just double checking. How many times have you been close?
Once.
Once. What hole?
12.
12, okay. All right.
And it was at the invitational, so I'm
Oh, you
glad I
don't,
missed
yeah,
it.
you don't want
So
to
I'm
make
glad
that
I
one
missed
anyway.
it.
Okay. All
I'm glad I
right.
missed it.
What's your favorite thing about Travis Point?
I think the camaraderie of the members, and particularly looking forward to Friday nights up here at the bar. I affectionately refer to it as our cheers.
Cheers, right?
So, and some of the staff that we've had with us, I think feel very good about. I think very proud of Mike Arity and John Seafeld and what they have meant to this club, and how fortunate we are to have had them for so many years. Feel real good about those type of things.
What would you like to add? Anything?
No, I just think it seems hard to believe that we're celebrating 40 years.
Yeah, my hair wasn't the same color.
Well,
and you have a lot more.
I had
of
a
it
lot
back
more,
then.
and it wasn't mixed with so much gray. But just the fact that it doesn't seem possible that it was 40 years ago that the club opened, and I think that's a testament to the membership that we're as strong as we are today. and basically now coming up on 30 years with the members on it. There were a lot of people back then, our mindset, thought we were going to fail.
Yeah.
And who were we going to sell it to was the motto. So, but we persevered, and I think it all turned out very successful.
I agree. Thanks, George.
Okay, Bob.
Sitting with Dr. Dave Williamson. Dave has been a Travis Pointe member for 27 years and served as president in 2000 and 2001. Dave, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Coming and
Thank you very much. My
helping us
pleasure, my honor.
Document the history of Travis Pointe, celebrating the 40th. So, tell me what role your board played with Mike Garrity and John Seifert.
Well, just before I became president in 2000, first of all, I think we can identify three major roles in this club as far as the premier employees. General manager, of which Guy Garino is now, but I had no selection in that choice. He came after I served on the board. But the other two would be the head golf pro and the superintendent of greens and grounds. It's very unusual for an individual to come along through the course of time where you get that perfect fit with one of those two positions. We were very fortunate in that almost simultaneously, within a year or two of one another, we got two in such individuals. Mike Garrity being the head golf pro and John Seifert being the superintendent of greens and grounds. Not only were they superb at their professions, but their interaction with the members and their personalities was just a great fit, just a great fit. I think that one of the coups that we made as when I was tenure on the board, not necessarily as president, but as a board member, was to secure those two individuals to long-term contracts. We felt that we had to lock these two guys in.
How are you?
We just knew that that was important to the success, long-term success of the club. Since then, they have, of course, exceeded those contracts in terms of numbers of years, and they've sustained themselves. And it's just been an invaluable experience to the point where I can't even, in fact, let me put it this way. Those two individuals, in my opinion, are more a part of being Travis Pointe than any other single member that I can think of that I'm familiar with.
You would have an awful lot of people agree with you on that, that's for sure. That's for sure.
And I sincerely believe it.
So, other than those two, what other significant developments occurred during your tenure?
Master plan, the development of the master plan, which was one of the bigger events, other than the fact that the members bought the club, and as George Lindstrom was referring to, the development of the master plan was huge, huge. Now, I have to give some of that credit to prior president, John Spiller. He preceded me as presidency. We served on the same board together. John professionally is an engineer. So he was the brainchild of developing the master plan. I worked hand in hand with John. We spent a lot of hours throwing ideas at one another. We also procured the services of Albert Kahn, an architectural firm out of Detroit, to help us with the development of the master plan. That went very, very well. Now, to develop the process, or the process of developing a master plan, takes a long time, usually more than a year. And that exceeded John's tenure as club president. So when I became president, the baton was somewhat passed on to me. Now, I didn't have a lot to do with developing the technicalities of the master plan itself, but I did help tweak some of it as your ideas change. My role as president wasn't so much the the master plan itself, but the promotion of the master plan to the membership, the presentation of the master plan to the membership, being available as much as I could to the membership on a daily basis for questions and answers, trying to help them understand what we were doing and why we were doing it.
Perfect, perfect. So what today is still very relevant and in place because of the master plan?
Well, I think that if we can step back a little bit from that question, Tom, we can talk about the physical structure of the club itself and all the improvements that have been made. But the most important thing that I can remember from the master plan, at least in my mindset, was not the plan itself, but the mentality of the membership. The membership up to that point had really resisted a lot of development and the fear of assessments and so forth. But we're a membership-owned club, and we had to kind of change the mindset of the members to the point where they had to realize that not only were they members of the club or owners of the club, but it was their responsibility to make the appropriate plans, to find out how to pay for the plans and implement the plans as we went along. And I think that we were pretty successful at that. In other words, we got the membership thinking about change and change for the positive. And I think that overwhelmingly was my goal, and I like to think that we have succeeded in that. Now, getting back to the actual physical structures itself, the master plan is separate from the golf plan. The golf course has its own master plan. But we did implement a new sprinkler system for the golf course, but again, that was done separately. As far as the master plan itself, and again, I want you to remember that a master plan is not etched in stone. It serves as a guide. It serves as a guide. When we developed the master plan, I never thought the master plan was going to survive the membership vote. It was too expensive. It was too expensive. So, and it did not pass, by the way. But subsequently, we broke down the master plan into different phases, multiple phases, where we broke down different facets of the club that we could take on as individual projects and just take on those projects as time went on. That has been successful, and I think that some of those projects might include the swimming pool. We redid the whole pool. The tennis barn, we upgraded that. The physical fitness arena. The halfway house. We did some upgrades, cosmetics within the clubhouse here itself, which wasn't necessarily part of the master plan, but it got people thinking about, hey, we need to have some things a little bit nicer in terms of presentation.
We're getting things done, too.
We're getting things done. Yeah. And that was my goal, was to, as president way back when, I always thought we got to get the members in a mindset whereby they get involved primarily as committee members, and then go on from there. And I think we've been pretty successful with that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Dave, what's your favorite part of Travis Pointe today?
My favorite part is getting birdies. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen very often. Doesn't happen very often at all. This is a very good question, and I spoke of this even when I was president back in 2000. Travis Pointe has a reputation of the golf course being its crown jewel, which I think the golf course is a great golf course, and I'm not trying to minimize the quality of the course, but I really think the crown jewel of Travis Pointe is the membership itself. We've got a great membership, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of dedicated people, and that has made for a great run.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so as a past president, we need to know, how many holes in one have you had?
I've had two. I've had two.
And where were they?
My first one was on hole number 12. And I can even tell you who I was playing with. I was playing with Don Wurzel and Ray Maidmont at the time.
Your neighbors.
Yes, my neighbors, same cul-de-sac, that's right. That's right. Actually, my second hole-in-one was not here, it was at Arcadia Bluffs.
Okay.
I got the first hole-in-one at Arcadia Bluffs.
So you have not made a hole-in-one on 16, which is right in your backyard.
16's too hard. I don't know many.
Not for you.
I don't know many people have gotten a hole-in-one there. That is a difficult hole.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Dave, again, we thank you for your contributions at Travis Pointe and taking the time to talk with us today.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you very much.
Randy was elected to the board in 1988 and served as president in 1990 to 1991. He was also requested to serve on the board after his presidency for several more terms. Randy, that was a very important time loaded with a lot of critical issues for the club. What challenges did the first board fix?
Well, we did the buyout, closed it in '88, end of '88, and then George Lindstrom was the next president, then myself. So we were still going through the throes of having the financing for the buyout and what to do with this clubhouse. The clubhouse at the time needed a bit of renovation and some maintenance. And so it was a matter of how far do we go with that? We set up a basic plan through George's here primarily, but then I'm the one who ended up doing it in '90. And we had to do the financing and do another assessment then for that. So it was the financial issues, but also the challenge of now this was a member-owned club. And the members had to figure out what their roles are, what the board had to figure out what its role was, because the board had never been a decision-making body before. It was sort of just, we'd like to do this or we'd like to do that. Now they were really responsible for taking care of a major operation. And so it was a learning process.
Can you elaborate a little bit about the financial issues that you faced when you were the president?
We'd already done the assessment for the buyout, but it was my turn to do the assessment for the renovation of the club. And it was a major renovation. We not only did maintenance issues, but we did some structural changes to the club. What is now the family room had been the bar before.
That's structural.
Yeah, and so we moved things around a lot, but we had done a plan, we gotten consultants in. We did what I believe was our first 5-year plan, and planned all that out, and then I had to work with the banks as well for the financing. And the assessment part was essentially our down payment.
Right. Well, that's an awful lot when you talk about the finances and the structural issues. What was the biggest impact of your time?
Well, a lot of people would say on the negative side, I put through a second assessment in 3 years. But on the positive side, one was that I was able to, due to a resignation, appoint the first woman to Travis Pointe Board.
Really? Oh, that's neat.
Kathy Martin.
That's neat. That's great.
And that was good. I felt that started something that should have been done prior. Then too was a matter of communication, improving the communication between the board and the membership. Membership was very concerned because, well, they just put all this money into this club and now what's happening?
Right.
And the board also had to figure out how to deal with 600 owners, 700 owners.
That's got to be tough.
That is tough, yeah.
So what change did you make in your time frame being on the board that's still present today?
Probably the best one is the fact that I signed the contract, first hired Mike Harrigan.
I think a lot of people would agree that that's the best one. No doubt
That was the
about
best, and it's still around. We also hired John Fisher that year. And John was a longtime tennis pro here,
Right.
and well respected. Unfortunately, he's not still here, so.
Right, exactly. That is unfortunate, no doubt about it. What makes Travis Point Country Club a great club today?
The facilities, the array of facilities, the fact that we are one of the 2, 3 handful of clubs in southeast Michigan that have year-round facilities, the indoor and outdoor swimming, indoor and outdoor tennis, as well as the golf course. The clubhouse, this is a great clubhouse. And so you put all that together, we're a diamond in the rough down here.
Absolutely.
And we need to have more people recognize that. You know, the issue that I've seen on that is the membership of the homeowners in the immediate area. I've always thought we need to increase that more than it is, but I think we're good.
Absolutely, absolutely, we're good. And we're good because of people like you that help get kickstarted. Thank you, Randy. We appreciate your time and coming and helping us document the history of Travis Point Country Club and celebrating the 40th anniversary.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Thank you for your contributions.
Sure.
John, what is the impetus for the creation of the master plan and the vision?
Well, we wanted to make sure that we had some set of principles in place that we all agreed with so that the committees could operate in a way that we didn't have to have so much oversight. One of my big issues when I became president was I wanted to avoid the 4-hour marathon board meetings.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah, who would? So we wanted the committees to actually operate as I would have expected a committee structure to operate, but we needed to give them some guidelines. So we had a vision for the club at that point in time that we were transitioning from a semi-corporate sort of club into a family club.
Right.
And we also had a vision that we wanted to have all the country club sports, the tennis, the golf, and the swimming, have any families that were interested in that participate in it. And we would move that direction. So with the idea of a family kind of oriented club around the country club sports and social sort of scene, we then set up, we had that vision, we wrote it down, we said each committee, you're charged with this. So for instance, House Committee, we wanted to improve the food structure. In 95 or so, we hired Denise, who was a chef here for 10 or 12 years, and did a great job. We had a lot of other people in place. The master plan for the golf course, for instance, we wanted to improve the playability of the golf course. We wanted to reduce the maintenance costs of the golf course, so we kind of removed a lot of the wooden structures that were going to deteriorate and replaced them with stone structure, lined ponds, concrete sort of thing. And we wanted to kind of promote the natural maturation of the golf course, so places where we could kind of make it look not young and that had been here for a while, we tried to do that. With the clubhouse and the rest of the surrounding areas, we tried to do the same thing. We embarked on replacing the pool. We had an old, smaller pool. We wanted to make it more accessible to children, handicapped, etc., have a diving well. We got that through. You know, we put in the clay tennis courts, you know, the outdoor courts. So we really did a lot of things that we thought would make it attractive because it was unusual. It's an unusual facility for the time to have indoor and outdoor pool, and indoor and outdoor tennis, a golf course like this, have good food, and we wanted it to make it more one-stop shop. And we had this idea that we wanted to be inclusive. We didn't want it to be so formal. Now, I know there were a lot of people that still wanted to have the jackets on in the dining room, and you know that's a tension that maybe you always have. But we really were trying to make this a more inclusive, sort of fun, less, I don't know what the word, not stiff, not snobby, I don't know what the right exact word is, but we were trying to go that direction. And we did. But we wanted to have some guiding principles in a master plan so that the committees knew what to bring forward. And then they dealt with business on a day-to-day basis. They were very close with the associated staff member. So the House Committee was very close with Keith McBruff. Greens and Grounds was very close with John Seifel. Golf committees were very close with Mike Garrett. And they took care of business. The 80 or whatever percent, if you use Pareto's law, the other 20% of the issues that needed some decisions came to the board and we dealt with it. And it really worked pretty well. And we had people coming on the board that kind of understood it. So from Judy Gillum to Ray Maidman to myself, Dave Williamson, John Abraham, Don Tyson, there was a 10-year or so run there where everybody kind of understood it. You know, I give a lot of credit to the guys that followed. Don Tyson, John Abraham, they got contracts for all these guys. We wanted to get that, but we could only do so much. But, you know, these people got contracts. Those are all the things you would like to put in place for sustainability. And that's what we were trying to do.
Would you, with all that, what do you think is the most significant impact of the master plan?
I think it gives you a path forward of priorities so that you don't have the swings when new boards come in and somebody has an agenda of just one item and wants to move it to the top. It kind of helps kind of give you some stability so we know we're moving. Not that it's the only plan, but it gives you a baseline so if you decide you want to move from it, you know why you're moving from it and what objective you're kind of satisfied by doing.
You grappled with general manager issues. How does that stay?
Yeah, that was difficult because when I joined the club and first came on, we had Dick Hazel-Schwartz, which we had to let go. We then hired David Hyde, who lasted not even a year, I don't think. He was very good, but he had some other issues. I think Ray Maidman, Judy Gillum, and Denise Deninas probably ran the club for about 18 months. We were like the general manager. And then we had Dan McCann come in, and then I was going off, but you know, he lasted X amount of time, and then David Lone, and we kind of know the history now, we're with Guy. It's a tough process because each person that comes in and each board, everybody has to get on the same page. And hopefully the master plans that we had and the vision we had sustained us for a while. I think maybe we've missed some of that, but I think they're doing the best they can.
Absolutely, absolutely, no doubt about it. So what's the best aspect of Travis Pointe today?
You know, well, obviously to me, it starts with the golf course and the piece of property. Right?
That one's surprising.
And I think we should never forget that. But we do have a nice clubhouse, and it's not over the top. It's just right. And I think the fact that you have, we've done things with the fitness center, that was part of the master plan because we knew people like to do that. The indoor-outdoor pool, I think, is a big deal. I mean, we had to grapple with this. I don't know what the exact timing was. Some people wanted to do away with the indoor pool. Well, that just didn't make any sense. We had it. Now, maybe you wouldn't put it in if you were starting from scratch, but the fact that we had it was an asset. The tennis program, I think, to me, to answer your question directly, it's the combination of all of them working together.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Well, we'd like to thank you for taking the time, and
Appreciate it.
we appreciate you coming and helping us document the history of the club and celebrate the 40th anniversary.
I think it's great. Somebody decided to do this. I think it was Nancy Chenoweth. Great idea.
Absolutely. And you know what, John, on top of everything, you know, your background is very, very needed here at Travis Pointe. And, you know, it's a strong technical background, and certainly you bring a lot to the party, and we thank you for that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm sitting with Tom Bauman. Tom's been a member for 24 years and has served 2 terms on the board, one in the late 90s and another one in the middle 2000. He's served on committees, and I want you to know, in my estimation, he is one of the true gentlemen here at Travis Pointe. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Tom. I feel the same way.
During your first term, the master plan was a focus. Describe what part of the process your board focused on.
Well, I think prior to that, we really had no master plan, so it was really developing a master plan from the ground up. And so we looked at the golf course, of course, and we brought in the golf course architect, and we created a master plan for the golf course. We created a master plan principally to look at future capital needs. because there was no mechanism at the time to fund large capital needs. One example of that would have been the 19th hole, which was, I'm sorry, the halfway house that was built years later, but that was built in part because of what we did with the master plan. Golf carts, golf cart paths, things like that. The tennis club was involved in that. The pool was involved in that. So really, this infrastructure required a lot of updating. We had more things to do than we had money to do.
Well, that brings us to the financial situation. What other financial issues were tackled by your board?
Well, I think one of the things that every private country club struggles with is cash flow and membership. And we're no different than the rest of the country clubs, private clubs. And so we're constantly struggling with positive cash flow, making sure our costs are in line with our membership, and keeping the membership up, because obviously membership is key to cash flow. So the most important function really is to keep our membership at healthy levels, and that solves a lot of cash flow like this, right?
All right, so you had to replace a general manager when you were on the board. What criteria was used in that search?
Well, I think one of the things that we tried to do when we're looking at general managers is obviously we looked for experience. We looked for people who had experience with infrastructure needs. We looked for people who had a broad-based experience. But one critical need was a person who really understood financials. And we felt we were lacking in that area, and that was a critical need.
So we talked a little bit about the master plan of the golf course. Were there any enhancements to the golf course during your tenure?
Well, I think there were enhancements. There were some subtle enhancements, and there were bigger enhancements. One subtle one would have been the comfort station between 5 and 6. Some people might call that subtle, but it was a smaller one. Other enhancements were the pool and the golf course. We started a tree replacement program.
Yeah, how did that work?
I think that worked very well. It was, some programs to enhance the club are voluntary, and others really come out of either an assessment or cash flow. And the tree program was an example of members sort of recognizing the need and the value of a tree service or a tree pool of money. And so that was largely voluntary, and it resulted, I think, in making the club, that much nicer.
Perfect, absolutely. So when you look at your terms, what is the most impactful issue that was tackled in this year today?
Well, I think we had a terrific board, and I think boards prior to that and boards after that have also been very talented and terrific. But I think one of the things that we developed on the board was we saw a need for an executive committee. And out of that grew, I think, the ability to really create successions for the president and vice presidential role and the treasury role. So, and it also, I think, helped us recruit board members in future years. So that was a big, I think, functional change of the board.
So to wrap this up, what's your favorite memory of being on the Travis Pointe boards?
I don't have one.
No, I'm kidding. All right.
No, I think by far the most enjoyable thing about being on this board was just the camaraderie. Meeting people and having some fun and feel like you're, improving the club a little bit. But it really was the people. It's a lot of fun. There's contentiousness on any board, volunteer or not.
People have opinions, right?
But at the end of the night, we could go to the 19th hole and we could have a beer and laugh about it and have a nice time. So by far, it was working with the people.
Well, on behalf of Travis Pointe Country Club, we thank you for your contributions. Thank you also for coming here and helping us document the history of the club and celebrate the 40th anniversary.
You bet.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
A pleasure. We're holding this session with Mark Evans. Mark and his wife Elaine have been members for 18 years. Mark is a practicing attorney with a business law specialization. He has served on several committees and was on the board from 2008 to 2011. And there is no doubt in my mind, barring none, he has the most infectious laugh at the club.
That's very kind of you, Tom. I appreciate that.
Love hearing it.
Appreciate it very much.
Prior to being a board member, you served on the House Committee.
Yes, very early on in my stint at Travis Pointe, I was asked to serve on the House Committee, which was kind of unusual given the fact that I was one of the only men on that committee. We had a lot of challenges at that time, trying to get food and beverage up, trying to get more people in to dine at the club, and dealing with various service issues. Those were the challenges when I served on that committee.
Right. So all of a sudden now, you come on the board, and you have to find a new general manager. How did that process go?
Right. I came on the board at the end of 2000 or 2008. I served 2009, 10, and 11, and we had to suddenly we lost David Lone, who resigned. David had been a professional general manager, and we were tasked with the difficulty of finding a new general manager. We hired a search group, and under the leadership of Brad McPherson, who did a fantastic job leading that committee and board, we eventually landed on Guy Garino, who had been working up in the Traverse City area, managing a club up there. It was a real challenge because we wanted to make sure that we had somebody who knew how to run a club, but more particularly had a good handle on the financial aspects of running a club.
So you have to find a new general manager. You come on the board, and there's a 2007-2008 recession that had a severe impact on the club.
Yeah.
Tell us about the time being on the board and grappling with that recession.
Well, in the 2009, 2011, the board had a very difficult time because membership was, if it wasn't dropping, it wasn't growing. We had the real issue of dealing with paying back equity to members who left the club, and that was a real financial burden on the club. We also didn't have, as we have today, any program to fund capital improvements separately. There were things that had been done that needed to be funded. The halfway house was built, which was a vast improvement from the window that you went up to and got your snacks. And it was, to say the least, a financial struggle. We always joked on our boards that once the equity got paid down, the money started rolling in. It would be a lot of fun being on boards around this time, and I'm hoping that's the case because we struggled to find finances.
It had to be hard, not only on the members, but also the people trying to run the club. It's a very, very serious time in history.
Yeah, it was a tough time for this club.
So now, Mark Evans continues to...
Tom?
See, I told you he's got an infectious laugh. How can you not laugh?
Oh, man.
Now you're still active, and you are the chairman of the golf committee. How do you see yourself in that role?
Chairman of the men's golf committee. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, the men's golf committee is particularly focused on the men's invitational, the Arbor Classic. Bob McCann does a great job with that, and we've had a lot of fun on the men's golf committee. It's a great organization of guys. We deal with various issues involving men's golf, the various events that are put on throughout the course of the year. We have input in terms of the calendar of golf for men, and it's been a blast. There's some great guys on that committee. Fantastic. I'm going to miss it when I have to get off of it.
So, why did you and Elaine join 18 years ago?
Well, 18 years ago, we lived in Birmingham, Michigan. We were searching for clubs in the Birmingham area. You know, Oakland Hills and Birmingham Country Club, they're all $80,000, $90,000 entry fees. My wife had the opportunity to move here to Ann Arbor to work in the office here in Ann Arbor as an endodontist. And we actually bought a membership at Travis Pointe before we even found a house. We knew Dave and Betsy French, were members here, longtime friends of ours. We used to play golf early on at Radrick when we were in Ann Arbor before. And we knew that if Dave and Betsy were at this club, this was the place for us. And ever since there, we've grown to love Travis Pointe, made fantastic friends here, yours truly included.
Thank you. You're a good friend.
And it's just been an enriching, wonderful experience for our entire family, including our kids and my wife.
Perfect, perfect. So, a lot of goes into this. What is the most exceptional part of the club today?
The members and staff. I mean, the members and staff here are extraordinary. I mean, I was just talking to Sid, our locker room guy in the locker room. Can't find a greater guy than that. Our golf pro, our greens and grounds people, our people in the restaurant, and the members. I mean, they're my friends, and I find new friends every time I'm here, involved in an event, up at the bar, wherever. It's the people that make Travis Pointe.
There's no doubt about it. So, we are so glad that you commuted from the northern suburbs of Detroit to come here to Travis Pointe. We are so happy to have you here today, and thank you, Mark, for everything.
Well,
Really
thanks for having me,
appreciate it.
Tom. It's
All
been a
right?
pleasure. Thanks.
I get the opportunity to sit beside the guy that's kind of in the background a lot, and at least from our perspective, because he's in the locker room all day long. But you've been here for 26 years, is that right?
Coming up to 28.
28 years. But you weren't always in the locker room.
No, I worked in the maintenance department for the first 5 years.
And then you got an opportunity
to come into the locker room, and then it was all over pretty much. It's just been day after day, coming in and taking care of members like yourself.
And it's fun.
It's been fun.
And you make it a lot of fun.
It has been, yes.
So I'm going to ask you some questions that you probably don't want to answer. And I will preface this by saying I would like you to answer at least the first questions with the row that person is in, not their name. Ready? Messiest locker.
Messiest?
Yeah.
Locker. In the third row.
Third row, good, that's not me. Okay. Cleanest locker.
Cleanest locker would be in the first row.
That's not me either. Biggest tipper.
Cannot answer that one.
All rows. Good move. Good move. Okay, most unusual request you've had working in the locker room.
Ooh, I would have to take a fifth on that one.
Oh, okay. I don't want to answer that. Okay, feel free to use a name here. Worst backgammon player.
Mr. Evans.
Mr. Evans, okay, good, good. I thought you were going to say Corey Backgammon. That's okay.
He's learning.
Your favorite part about being here?
My favorite part about being here is the members are very, very down to earth. It's a family-oriented country club, and I have had the pleasure of watching some of the kids grow from the age of basically brand new born till they are 27, 28, and they have joined as a member. And to watch them grow up is probably one of my favorite aspects of being in this country club, working for the members and getting to know a lot of people. And I just love that.
Well, I will say, in all honesty, and you know this from experiences I've had with guests here, you do a better job than anyone else around. I'm not going to dig into that one story that you know we're going to talk about. I will. One of my guests here actually had the locker room attendant at his club call you to ask you how you did certain things because he couldn't do it as well.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. I do remember that. But I think one of the reasons I probably go out of my way, try to do that as good as I can, is because after 3 years of working here, I thought that I was really good. And I saw a pair of shoes come from another country club. And I realized I have a lot to learn still. And I decided to go over there one night and help him during his invitation, just so I can know what I needed to do it as good as he did.
Well, you've done a fabulous job.
Thank you.
You are one of the favorite people here. You ask anyone here, and I'll say, Sid is great.
Thank you.
And we appreciate all that you do.
Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sitting with Nancy McKellar, who is a 27-year veteran employee of Travis Pointe Country Club. She has been in the kitchen for 27 years and has seen an awful lot of changes. She is the bastion of stability for the people in the kitchen. And Nancy, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Tell me, how many chefs have you worked for in the kitchen?
So maybe around 6, 7 years. 7 people, chef.
7 chefs.
Yeah,
Wow.
almost I think.
So when you first got the job here,
Yes.
what were you doing?
When I first started the job here, so my husband, Michael McCarris, so he used to be work here as I started the shop. So he worked here about 9 years too.
Okay.
So after that he left. So he asked me, do you want to come with me work different restaurant or country club? I said, no, I'd rather stay here. I think I liked here better. So that's why I told him. That's why I haven't, that's why I'm still here.
Right.
So I like working here. I like all the people here and the member, all this, so.
All right, so your job is basically cold foods,
Yeah,
correct?
cold food pantry,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so in terms of the cold foods, explain what all that means. What encompasses cold food?
Cold foods, most I make like sandwich, cold sandwich, like salads, and if you have party, I do like most of like food tray, vegetable tray, cheese trays, all kind of
yeah.
salads I do, like the banquet stuff, so pretty much the cold stuff I do.
Can I thank you for the cold shrimp?
Oh,
Nice. Is that
yeah,
you? Oh,
yeah, we do
that's
the cold.
wonderful. That's wonderful when we have
Okay,
that.
okay.
Thank you. All right, so in terms of the salads themselves, do you create the salads or do you work in concert
I
with the
work
chef?
with chef.
With the chef to do
Most chef, so he decided what they want to put in, and then I have some idea I want to do, I tell him what I should put in there, good or not good, what I mean? So pretty much, we both kind of decide what we want to put.
Okay.
in.
All right, great. What about the dressings? Do you make the dressings?
Yes, I think we make most of dressings, so, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So, putting everything together,
Mhm.
all right? The cold cheese platters, the vegetable platters,
Yeah.
the shrimp,
Yeah.
the salads. What's your favorite part?
I think a favorite part of do the food tray is so,
Yeah.
enjoy to put on, looks nice on, the tray. That's why when you see the party, really nice tray, pretty much I do this.
I think this is just me. I'm not anywhere near. But when you see a vegetable tray with a lot of different colors,
Yeah.
I think that's you want to dive in and try
Yeah,
it all.
exactly. I like when I always do like good job. It looks nice put out there. So let members see.
So when you started, the dining was downstairs. and the kitchen was upstairs.
No, I think the dining room is still upstairs.
Oh, it's upstairs.
Downstairs just for the girl, because they have the one room for the people.
Right,
Sit
okay.
down, go to cop, like come in the cop house or go in the golf, and then they come down. They don't have to come upstairs.
Okay, I got it.
So I think they still have halfway house, the one in the back right now. But usually in the winter we're not open. So only summer, that's why a lot of people come in.
Right.
So pretty much people come down and just not come up here. So at least people not like dress up, they have to come up here so they can just like go downstairs and eat. And then it kind of too much problem, like up and down, the ordering.
Right, exactly, that's hard.
So that's why they decide like,
That's hard.
move back all up here.
No doubt about it.
Yep.
So, we really appreciate you being an employee for 27 years.
Thank you.
And it's a pleasure to meet the person that makes the salads. And quite frankly, I love them all. You do a great job.
That's good. Thank
You do
you.
a great job.
Thank you.
Nancy, thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
an employee
Yeah.
at Travis Point.
Thank you.
Today, I have the extreme honor of interviewing Mr. Bob McCann. Brother Bob, welcome.
Brother Tom, I have the same honor of interviewing you.
Much. Bob's been a member here for over 30 years, even though he's only 40. Joined very, very young.
That's true.
And is a major, major contributor to Travis Point Country Club. He, in many, many ways, has carried the Invitational for many years. He's been the chairman of it and has been the one person that has always tried to improve and improve and improve. And I've also had the honor of working with Bob on the tapes for the 40th anniversary and the celebration. And we've had a great time, there's no doubt about it. It's been good to learn an awful lot about the club through the people we've talked about and talked with, and also to learn more about Bob, because he is certainly a great individual and really in many ways a great personality on camera. He is
That's
a retired...
100 I owe you, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. No, it's 200 right now. Bob's a retired media executive who retired last year. Was it
Last year, yes.
Yeah. And unfortunately, he's probably considering going back to work because his golf game has deteriorated in retirement. Is that true?
That's
Is that a consideration?
exactly true, yes.
Is it?
I blame that on the pro here for bad advice.
You do?
Yes.
You do? Really? All right, so he also is in Florida in the wintertime, and he's able to practice there. And I think you're going to get it back this winter when you're in Florida.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. Bob, being in charge of the Invitational, what is your favorite memory out of all, you've been in a ton of them, what's your favorite memory?
That's a tough one. I think, I don't know, there's a lot of them. What I try to do with the Invitational is add a little something to it every year, something a little bit different that, just made it a little bit more special, so we could build up the number of people that were playing, because it had kind of fallen down a little bit. So, and I told Mike Garrity, if we don't have a wait list in 3 years, fire me. And we had a wait list in 3 years, and we raised the price, and we've expanded the field. We've done a lot of things. And maybe I think the first time that we had Karen Newman sing the national anthem for us, I didn't tell anyone that Karen was going to be here. And I snuck her into the pro shop, and forever we had played a recording of the national anthem with the Michigan Marching Band. So I introduced her to come out and sing it, and I think that was kind of a big surprise for everyone. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
She's come back and done it every year since.
Well, if you could recap this year's, the 2017 Invitational, what made that so special?
Well, we were fortunate enough to get one of the game's great players, J.C. Sneed, to come in and talk to us on Stag Night. My part of the Invitational is really Thursday. Mike and his staff set up the golf, and they do the golf course, and Chef cooks the meals, and Guy and his staff, and Sid takes care of everyone here. My job is to make Thursday a little bit more entertaining. And we've had great speakers that we've had, Kenny Daniels and Mel Farr and Jimmy King and Lloyd Carr and Greg Madison, and to get J.C. Sneed to come in last year was really a lot of fun, and I think everyone enjoyed it.
Absolutely, heard an awful lot good about it. You may not know this, but Bob is a starter announcer for the LPGA Volvic Championship. And he does it to perfection. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't know this, I'm maybe the only one, he is now a consultant to on-air TV personalities in terms of how to say some of the names of the women professional golfers. So let's start out this way. I'm going to test you, brother.
Oh, now see, this is what I was going to do to you.
No.
Okay, all right,
Okay, all right. So we're going to have to go back to year one.
Year one.
Okay, because there's a little bit of a difference, all right? Year one, there was a player who, we had the pronunciation of her name one way, and then year two, they changed it. So what I'm going to ask you is their first name and the first year pronunciation with the second year pronunciation.
I got it.
First name is Panra.
Pambunyalat.
Okay, second year?
Thanapanbunyaras.
See that? Told you he was good. Told you he was good. All right, how about Nantaya?
Sarisaway.
All right. Then we had a player that, you know, Bob practiced for the better part of 3 months on the names. And
let's be fair, you did too.
Well, that's fine.
And that's really
Wait a
what it
minute,
was
hold
all
on.
about.
I'm interviewing you right now.
Okay, all right.
Just hold on. Jeez, some guys just can't go in order. But there was one player who was dropped on us on the Monday before the tournament. And we had no clue of how to pronounce her name. And we had no clue where she came from. Her name was Sherman
Santiwibathanafon.
Right out of the
And it's
blue.
about that long.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you can tell why he's a consultant to the media type right now in terms of, what do you think is the best thing that happened to you as a starter announcer?
Oh, gosh. I think the best thing happened in the first year after the Saturday round. I had the opportunity to play with Brittany Lincecum in the Pro-Am the first year. And she came up to me after the Saturday round and said, in her words, Bob, I played like shit today because you didn't introduce me. Will you introduce me tomorrow? No, it wasn't about the introduction. I think it was a luck thing. So you allowed me the next Sunday morning to go up and introduce Brittany again.
You're more than welcome to do my work anytime. That's neat. And I can certainly tell that there was a lot of mutual respect there. No
We had a
doubt
lot of
about
fun.
it.
And as you well know, it's a great time.
Yeah, it is. It's wonderful. And what about the interviews for the 40th? Tell me what you thought.
I think it's been, first of all, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been very enlightening. Sitting down with Alan Florian Rensselaer and just talking to them about their history here and the first house that they had here, and the fact that they made 12 hole-in-ones between them. It was amazing. It was amazing. But there's things that, you know, as you said, I've been here for 34 years, so I know a lot of what's happened. I've experienced a lot of what's happened. But to listen to some of the background things, Don Tyson had some great comments about what was going on when he was here, and I had the opportunity to talk with John Seafeld and Mike Garrity, which is always great, to get kind of their perspectives. I think it's been insightful and entertaining. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Well, with all of that together, why have you been at Travis Pointe for over 30 years?
It's all about the people to me here. When I first joined Travis Pointe, in all honesty, I didn't have a lot of money. I had enough money to join a golf club. I could join somewhere else now if I chose to, but it's the people here that make this place special. I have great friends like you, and I love the golf course. I've never gotten tired of playing this golf course. I told that to Bill Newcomb when he was there the other day when we interviewed him. I've never gotten tired of playing a golf course, but I have some of the best friends I've ever made in my life are here, and I just love being here.
All right. I'm going to look quickly into the future here, about 40 years in the future. Someone that just joined the club when they're 26 right now, 40 years from now, they're going to be 66, they're going to walk up to the bar and says, give me a Bob McCann. What are they going to get?
Well, they're probably going to get a Johnny Walker Black on the rocks, but it depends. See, occasionally, I've told one of our favorite bartenders, PT, if I do on occasion have a martini, I've handed him a $20 bill, actually half of a $20 bill, and said, I'll have two. If you serve me a third one, you don't get the other half of the 20. So, but typically it's a scotch.
All right. Well, Bob, your contributions are enormous to the club, both from the financial side, the media equipment side, and your personality, and we really appreciate it.
Brother Tom, it's great
Thank
fun
you
working
so
with you.
much.
Thanks.
Great.